Chapter 1467, Constellation Power. Chapter 1467, Constellation Power. Underscore, is this brutal demon the one we're seeking for? Is there a mistake? Second Sky of Immortal Realm. He has only Second Sky of Immortal Realm cultivation base. How could it be? Chiemo was at peak of Immortal Realm. Gosh, we thought it was simple. If we had known this earlier, we wouldn't have gotten involved in this. Many people began to regret. They were here because they wanted to observe a battle between the territory ancestors to learn dark energy. However, most of them were here to capture Yin to get the power Upanishad symbol tower. And now, the target they had been waiting for had come back with guts. As soon as he came, he showcased his skills that were beyond anyone's imagination. He had slaughtered Chiemo and the warriors from the Devouring clan. His devouring power Upanishad made Neptune's brutal soul shiver. Also, he had used the power of the constellation to wake up Emperor Sea Shark. He had almost overturned the situation single-handedly. Little Bear Constellation's indignant roar. Yin grinned and licked the blood at the corners of his mouth. The big silver bear created by the stars faced the sky and roared. Its ferocious nature was completely stimulated. The crystals in its body collided with each other grumblingly. Massive asteroids fell from the sky. At this moment, it looked like the silver bear was shattering. Streams of asteroids grumblingly sank, each of them as big as an island. They brought the wrath of a savage bear. Crack, crack, pft. When the asteroids hit the other warriors, their bodies were directly smashed. The light cage they had built to protect their bodies were fragile, as if they were made of an eggshell. Many Immortal Realm experts were bleeding terribly. They looked more helter-skelter than Yin did. Why did you attack us? You're crazy. We didn't do anything. Are you crazy, man? They shrieked and screeched, criticizing Yin indignantly. Haha, you've crossed thousands of miles from the surface to come here and find me, haven't you? Yin smirked. If you dare to come, you should expect to see my flames of anger. You think I'm alone so you can bully me? You think I'm just a low-realm warrior so you can do whatever you want of me? You're so naive. After the asteroids had fallen from the sky, dozens of more warriors were crushed and their soul altars escaped. Once the soul altars emerged, Yin directly used his devouring power Upanishad to swallow them all. The Sea of Annihilation seabed had become the Shura Hell. The onlookers from different clans were attacked by the asteroids, and they got smashed. More people recognized the dangerous situation. They tried their best to not let their bodies shatter, even if they had to bear damages in their soul altars. As long as they had their bodies, their soul altars weren't going to be devoured. Yin, you want to attack us too? You're crazy. Damn you. I gave you an immortal pellet. Tu Shirchi, Yayun, and Forefather Dragon Lizard were attacked by 300-meter-tall asteroids. They had to join hands to resist the asteroids. All looked helter-skelter. They screamed and scolded Yin for returning favors with bad deeds. They thought that Yin was very heartless. Yin's line of sight fell on them. He frowned and said coldly, "Do you know what's repaying favors with bad deeds? If you knew, you wouldn't have come to the Sea of Annihilation seabed. When we were on Dragon Lizard Star, without me, Sing would have killed you and Neptune's soul refining cauldron would have sucked your blood and soul quickly. And you, Tu Shirchi, if I hadn't used my space energy to unlock your spatial lock, do you think you could have escaped that lock? If I hadn't stopped Meiji, you and your wife would have been killed on Dragon Lizard Star. Because I killed Ling Mei, a woman from the mysterious Sky Clan, you got your eyes fixed on me just to have an answer to your forefather Han Tian? Ling Mei had seized the chance when I was hurt to strike Meiji. Her soul magnetic field almost broke. When she wanted to kill me, where were you? I didn't see you trying to seek justice for me? Yan's face was dark and cold. Because Ling Mei was the granddaughter of Han Tian and I'm not a member of the mysterious Sky Clan, and because I didn't agree to be your clan's non-native officer, you were going to kill me? Pausing for a breath, Yin shouted, "Why? Why?" Boom. Another asteroid fell from the sky and hit the asteroid above Tu Shirchi, Yayun, and Forefather Dragon Lizard. Two asteroids piled up and increased the pressure. Boom, boom, boom. Tu Shi and Yun's bodies cracked and bled badly. Although Forefather Dragon Lizard was just a clone, he was Lizard's later generation. His body was tough enough to resist. However, he still shook. Lava was churning in his eyes. He was panic-stricken. It was just 10 years after the incident on Dragon Lizard Star. At that time, Yin was at the incipient God realm, and he had used one of his immortal pellets to reach the immortal realm. And now, his power was terrifying. With such progress in the near future, even the mysterious Sky Clan weren't going to be able to subdue him. Forefather Dragon Lizard was regretful. He regretted coming to the seabed with Tu Shi and Yun to find Yin. Even though he remembered Yin's favor and protected him by asking Tu Shi and Yun to give him chances, when he jumped into the sea, no matter what his attitude was, he had chosen to stand against Yin. Old man, you're right. This kid has endless potential. We were all wrong. Yun's blood dripped from her mouth to her chest, her face bitter. I always said that we were wrong. I've underestimated his potential. If I had known his competence, I would have ignored Ling Mei then. Sigh, Tu Shi sighed. Do you want to watch more? Farrell asked Ricardo with a wince. Ricardo lifted his head, his face surprised. He was dazed as he watched Yin attack everywhere. He hadn't taken any action. Hearing Farrell, Ricardo chuckled. If you want to take action, do it yourself. Although that kid is fierce, you can still kill him simply. Why didn't you do that? If Emperor Sea Shark didn't see it earlier, I would have taken action, Farrell scolded. Not far from him, Emperor Sea Shark looked much colder, his eyes gazing at Farrell. He knew that if he made the slightest move, Emperor Sea Shark's fierce attack would bombard him instantly. He wasn't so sure that Ricardo was honest to him to help him cope with Emperor Sea Shark. Thus, he was hesitant. As for Neptune, because his brutal souls were subdued by the devouring power Upanishad, he had become the most pathetic expert. Apparently, he got the power of a territory ancestor realm expert because of his suppression brutal souls, which were also his most powerful ones. He didn't have any means left to deal with the others. At this moment, he was gathering his brutal souls, his face pensive as if he was hesitating before striking. Ricardo, Farrell, and Neptune didn't do anything, which meant that no territory ancestor had taken action to stop Yin. Chiemo and the members of the Devouring Clan didn't have the power to resist the devouring power Upanishad. Yin had seized the chance and killed them all. It had shaken everybody on the scene. Yin could use his constellation power smoothly without encountering any obstacle because the others were still in a daze after witnessing Chiemo's death. Chiemo was at the peak of Immortal Realm, and Yin, an expert at Second Sky of Immortal Realm, was able to kill him. His resentful death had cast a shadow in their hearts. Only Ming Hao, the God Lord, and a few knew that it was a retributive relationship between the devouring power Upanishad and the chaos power Upanishad since Yin could kill Chiemo. They understood that if Yin faced another third sky of Immortal Realm, even if he could win, he would have to pay a terrible, bloody price. They knew that, but they didn't say it out loud. Yin had an intimidating aura of an overlord, which had worried the others and given him time and room to use his constellation power to check the essence of his new star power Upanishad's ability. The situation entered a strange phase. The experts from the other areas on the seabed, or from the surface, had come to cooperate with Ricardo, Neptune, and Farrell to hunt Yin. However, the three territory ancestors had stood idle and watched Yin slaughter many people and swallow their soul altars. The seabed became bloody. The asteroids from the Big Silver Bear seemed to have their own consciousness. After they had fallen and smashed one warrior, they could slowly rise up again to prepare for the next attack. Everybody knew that if they let Yin do what he wanted like this, the situation was going to turn to the point of no control. Neptune had hesitated for a long time. Eventually, he lifted his head and looked at Yin. If it's not because of the devouring power Upanishad, it's easy to kill you. Let alone your second sky of Immortal Realm. Even if you were at peak of Immortal Realm, you would have made no difference. You will see, the difference between the immortal realm and territory ancestor realm. Then, the divine weapon was conjured. As soon as the soul-refining cauldron emerged from Neptune's head, his brutal souls all wormed into the cauldron. The three-legged cauldron moved. Countless absolute beginning symbols were wiggling on its surface and emitting an aura that could enter people's soul. The cauldron then fell between the asteroids in the sky. Abruptly, the brutal souls began to shriek and cry from inside the cauldron. As soon as the warriors around heard the cries, so many ghosts and departed souls stormed out. There were tens of thousands of them. Those brutal souls were stabilized and enhanced by the soul-refining cauldron. They weren't afraid of the devouring power Upanishad anymore. They circled and dragged many asteroids together. After dozens of seconds, the big silver bear congregated one more time. This time, it wasn't Shi Yin who did that. The brutal souls had forced the asteroids and glued them together. At first glance, so many brutal souls and ghosts had covered the silver bear. In the next moment, the jade, three-legged cauldron snatched over it. Waves of soul energy from the cauldron made the silver bear screech in agony. The spirit inside the stars seemed to be tamed. They were so worried that they tried to seek help from Shi Yin. Go! A brutal soul, which looked like a 100-meter-tall lion, flew out. Its massive claws attacked Shi Yin. Shi Yan's wounded body was torn, revealing a bloody hole where people could see his internal organs and intestines. Neptune coughed badly. He looked at the soul-refining cauldron, his face baffled. It seemed like using the cauldron had cost him a lot. This cauldron hadn't been completely fixed, and he hadn't tamed it yet. When he forced the divine weapon, he had to endure the backfire. The devouring power Upanishad could somehow subdue his brutal souls. He had to pay with the backfire of the soul-refining cauldron to kill Shi Yin. Ricardo, Farrell, stop Emperor Sea Shark for me for a while. I have to kill this kid first. Neptune seized a moment between his coughs to shout. No problem. Farrell agreed immediately. Ricardo lifted his head to look at Shi Yin and then at Emperor Sea Shark. Pondering for a while, he nodded. I'll watch Emperor Sea Shark. I won't let him trouble you. Chapter 1468, Yin and Yang, Left and Right. Chapter 1468, Yin and Yang, Left and Right. Ricardo and Farrell agreed with Neptune. The two of them scattered to block Emperor Sea Shark on his left and right and attack him simultaneously. Ricardo's and Farrell's territories suddenly emitted ripples that carried a bizarre aura that came from their sea of consciousness. It was dark energy. Ricardo's and Farrell's territories swelled like an inflated balloon. The energies emitted from the two territories were burning flames and wild lightning. The flames and lightning seemed to have lives as they became flame spirits and the essence of lightning accompanied by Ricardo's and Farrell's life aura. It was like they had created two new species from thin air. The dark energy was also negative energy. Rumors said that it could create a new world or destroy a world. It could create living beings. With dark energy, the territories of the two territory ancestors were connected to the real world. The flame and lightning spirits in the two worlds danced and attacked Emperor Sea Shark's territory. Emperor Sea Shark discolored and muttered, using dark energy to improve the territory and create lives. It requires using soul consciousness and dark energy. You guys are here to help Neptune. I don't know why you have to sacrifice a lot like that. The absolute beginning original symbol is very important. We all need an absolute beginning original symbol to strengthen the territory and generate more dark energy, Ricardo pondered and then said, I don't want to risk my life with you. As long as you don't come out, I won't use all of my energy. Farrell wanted to launch a fatal attack. Hearing Ricardo, his face darkened. Emperor Sea Shark looked at the two of them. Dark energy surged in his sea of consciousness and vigorously expanded. His water territory expanded along with dark energy. So many water drops became crystal clear with a life aura. It seemed like they were given lives and shapes instantly. They were palm-sized, water warriors without facial features. However, they had soul energy. They moved out of the water territory, swarming and slashing the creatures Ricardo and Farrell had created with their dark energy. At the same time, Neptune leaped up. He raised his hand and snatched. The soul-refining cauldron fell back into his hand. Billions of ghosts and departed souls had congregated into a giant demon claw and attacked Shi Yan. Constellation power. Shi Yan's body was cut and bleeding hard. The others could even see the organs in his chest. He roared indignantly. The massive rocks on the seabed flew up. Within 3 breaths, they had formed a giant silver bear. The big bear roared crazily and hit the giant demon claw. Millions of brutal souls and ghosts were torn into pieces. They turned into a gray mist and smoke and vanished. The big bear pulled and tugged the demon claw, preventing it from attacking Shi Yan. The star energy in his body was drained rapidly. Shi Yan hovered in the void, his face cold. He changed his power Upanishad. In the tier of power Upanishads in his soul altar, the absolute beginning original symbol inside the life ball erupted vitality. The stream of rolling vitality flooded Shi Yan's limbs and internal organs. As so many warriors were gazing at him, his body, which could become a pulp of flesh at any minute, started healing at a speed that naked eyes could observe. His veins grew. His broken bones connected. Fibers of flesh in his cuts moved and closed. The deep gashes on Shi Yan's pale, terrible face faded and then disappeared completely. With the torrential vitality from the absolute beginning original symbol, his badly damaged body recovered. In this moment, his naked torso showcased his tough muscles. He had only a pair of shorts on his iron-like body. His muscular frame gave people an expression of something vigorous and exploding. The torrential life energy didn't cease and started flooding his entire body. The others who were watching him could even hear something amazing rumble inside him. It was the vitality, the enormous vitality that nothing could compare to. Many warriors couldn't help but cover their mouths in awe while witnessing this miracle. Many of them couldn't even believe their own eyes. Shi Yan's badly damaged body healed after 10 breaths. He even looked stronger than before. What happened? Life Power Upanishad. The absolute beginning original symbol he got must be the Life Power Upanishad. Only the power of the absolute beginning original symbol can create such a wonder. Forefather Dragon Lizard said as he couldn't believe it. This man is unbelievably lucky, as he got an absolute beginning original symbol that fused with his Life Power Upanishad. Unless he uses up all of his energy, he can always use the absolute beginning original symbol to recover. Tu Shirchi and Ye Yun were dumbstruck. They found that they couldn't predict Shi Yan's future and development anymore. Also, they hated Ling Mei for her reckless deeds, which had made the mysterious Sky Clan lose the fiercest friend. He's Bloodthirsty's disciple. If that man was still alive, he would be much more intimidating than forefather Han Tian, Ye Yun reminded in a low voice. Tu Shirchi nodded with a forced smile. He suddenly felt that the situation was going to be much more complicated to handle than he had estimated. Pondering for a while, he said, "All right, we should just watch this battle. We shouldn't get involved anymore. After it's finished, we will report everything to forefather Han Tian. He won't blame us too much. Anyway, he had an encounter with Bloodthirsty that year." Ye Yun nodded as she agreed with him, her eyes upset. "It turns out that you have the life absolute beginning original symbol." Neptune sat cross-legged on a brutal soul. Holding the soul refining cauldron, he was controlling the massive demon claw, his eyes radiating magical light. Shi Yan stayed naked. His eyes slowly turned garnet. Spikes tore his skin and jutted outward. A pair of bone wings emerged from his back. Right afterward, a set of gory armor shrouded him. The chest plates of his armor had magical blood clouds that bloomed like flowers. He clutched a blood-dripping sword in his hand, which had so many open eyes. A strange, evil aura slowly emitted from him. At that moment, Shi Yan had transfigured to his best fighting mode. He had even equipped the blood shield and the blood sword. He wanted to risk his life now. When a warrior at the immortal realm wants to challenge a territory ancestor realm expert, unless he gets dark energy very early, at his peak of immortal realm and with an absolute beginning divine weapon, he won't have a chance to survive. Neptune looked at him and said mindfully, "Unfortunately, you're at second sky of immortal realm. You don't have an absolute beginning weapon. Even though your life form evolved well, only death awaits you. Neptune laughed evilly. He had drawn a long, black river from his glabella. That river was created by dark energy with his soul as the source of power. So many water demons were floating in that river. It looked like the Nether River deep inside the Nether Sea in hell. The river had murmuring, ink-black water. The water demons showed their fangs and raised their claws, disappearing into the sea. The warriors who could use dark energy knew that it was Neptune's killing strike. At the Territory Ancestor realm, it wasn't easy to gather dark energy. They wouldn't use it because of that. Once they used dark energy, their soul, spirit, will, and chi would become one to increase dark energy, which would turn into his life-taking attack. The onlookers thought that the river had disappeared. However, when the experts with dark energy sent dark energy to their eyes, they could see that jet-black river flow toward Shi. The big silver bear created by Shi's constellation power was still resisting the demon claw. Moreover, it was in a bad situation. Its crystals were exploding one by one. That soul river was approaching Shi with a soul threat that he couldn't resist. Shi felt a massive rock pressing on his chest that made him unable to breathe. His soul altar began to have cracks when the river came closer. His sea of consciousness seethed and his power Upanishad ceased. It seemed like the river could affect him a lot. Star Chain, Space Cross / Death Seal. He activated 3 techniques continuously. Dozens of meteors and space blades came with massive hand seals of death that attacked the Soul River. The Soul River didn't even bubble. It wasn't affected at all. Still, the river flowed toward Shi. Neptune's mouth curled coldly. He grinned and deliberately made the river flow slowly. It seemed like he enjoyed Shi's desperate and powerless expression a lot. Dark energy can create worlds, and it can also destroy worlds. It's the negative power of earth and heaven. The warriors can only have it after the soul, body, and soul consciousness transforms to a particular level. God power, star energy, and space energy can't dissolve a dark energy attack. It requires dark energy and negative energy to dissolve it. Your pathetic, minute amount of dark energy will never be enough to neutralize my soul river. Shi paled, frowning and saying nothing. The earth and heaven can be categorized as yin and yang, or left and right. The God power, star, space, and chi are the yang ones, or part of the right. Dark energy is the yin or the left. It's like a person who has a soul and a body. The energy generated by the body is God power, star power, or space power. It belongs to the passive energy category. Only the energy generated by the soul is dark energy. The God power stays in the body while the dark energy hides in the sea of consciousness. As you have dark energy, your soul reached a strong level. But your realm is not high enough. It's unfortunate. Neptune sneered as he explained the left and right, yin and yang, body and soul to Shi. He was confident that Shi would die this time. Many warriors around the seabed listened to Neptune as he was talking about the yin and yang, left and right, and dark energy. They all looked pensive. Especially Ming Hao and Godlord Brian. They felt like they were suddenly enlightened with a clear path. Amazing, holy light radiated from their eyes. Forefather Dragon Lizard was also bewildered as he replayed what Neptune had said. He seemed to get something. Freeze. A cold voice arose at this moment. It was from Meiji. A thick ice wall was congregated and standing in Neptune's soul river's way. The ice wall sparkled strongly and partially visible. Neptune's soul river was stopped magically. Tui. Meiji's charming face became ashen like a sheet of white paper. She spurted blood. The light in her eyes dimmed and vanished. Chapter 1469. Sky and Earth Turning Upside Down. Chapter 1469. Sky and Earth Turning Upside Down. The seawater turned red in Meiji's eyes. It was a mix between seawater and blood. The blood wasn't diluted in the seawater. It was like a bloody handkerchief that totally contrasted with her pale face. The ice wall was also created by dark energy, and it carried the power and essence of ice power Upanishad with Meiji's soul consciousness. Boom, boom, boom. The ice wall exploded as the river barged into it. Meiji's body shook as her soul was exhausted and her power got drained. Her glowing skin became loose and her jade-like face becoming wrinkled. Not bad. You finally got dark energy. The Phantom clan should have one more territory ancestor. Too bad. Neptune was calm and squinting. The light in his eyes was sharp and cold. The Soul River finally pierced through the ice wall and continuously moved toward Shi. Meiji was aging fast. Her hair became white like fog and her eyes filled with sorrow. A fantasy bounder stone flew out of his palm. A chunk of starlight with surging vitality rolled inside that fantasy boundary stone. The stone inflated like a big bag and shrouded Meiji. Tearing a space slit, Shi put the fantasy boundary stone in it and watched Meiji disappear. He didn't leave. The Soul River ran straight into his forehead. Boom! A flame ignited right at Shi's glabella. It flickered with a life aura. A soul became visible inside the flame. It was Shi, but it was different. It was a soul created out of fire. Under the flame were countless gray clouds that were made of dark energy from the sea of consciousness. Inside that flame was Shi's second soul. Neptune's Soul River barged into that flame and aimed at Shi's co-soul. Boom! Billions of flames burned fiercely. Shi's co-soul became partially clear. Staying inside the furious flame, it gradually changed like a stretching shadow of a ferocious demon. An earth-shaking intimidatingly came from that giant shadow. In between billions of flames, the giant shadow raised one hand and pulled Neptune's Soul River. Ricardo, Feral, and Emperor Sea Shark were fighting. Their faces changed as they stopped fighting. Magical light shot out of their eyes when they looked at Shi. All the warriors on the Sea of Annihilation's seabed lifted their heads to look at Shi. Tu Shi, Forefather Dragon Lizard, and Yayun looked extremely odd. Forefather Dragon Lizard muttered in the old language of the Dragon Lizard clan. It was a language taught by Absolute Beginning Creature Lizard. As soon as he saw the giant shadow, he instinctively spoke the old language of his clan. Shi's eyes looked baffled. He stood imposingly in the sea water. In front of him, countless flames had formed a lotus throne with dark energy clouds supporting a vague giant. That giant shadow continued to change with the heaven flames as the body and Shi's co-soul as the control center. Godlord Brian and Audrey became baffled at the same time in two different areas. It looked like their souls were taken. They couldn't help but clutch their heads and crouch in pain. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. All of a sudden, billions of flames flew out of Brian and Audrey. They had different colors, and it seemed like they had their own lives. All of those flames gathered with the flaming lotus throne in front of Shi. The ferocious shadow on the lotus throne had become even bigger. The terrifying, formidable aura slowly emitted. Oh, arg. Many people around couldn't endure the pressure. They were forced to kneel down uncontrollably. Some even crouched on the ground and didn't dare to lift their head up. Neptune's dark energy Soul River, aiming at the flaming lotus throne, was pulled and torn. The giant shadow tore it directly. Neptune was so bitter, his eyes terrified. He wanted to run away. Boom! A tie in his soul was pulled. He discolored in fright as he looked at the soul-refining cauldron. He had lost the connection with the cauldron. The soul-refining cauldron strangely flew away and fell on Audrey. Every eye was gazing at the soul-refining cauldron when it got into Audrey's head. The cauldron then began to fuse with Audrey. In this strange atmosphere, Godlord Brian slowly rose, his eyes still closed. Billions of halos rippled through him and created a crystal barrier of light. A dazzling light orb flew out of Brian's chest. The giant shadow caught it. The light orb suddenly became more blazing as if it had hundreds of stars in it. The giant shadow hurled the light orb away and aimed at Neptune. Neptune ran crazily, his face desperate and his brutal souls bobbing restlessly. The light orb chased after him. Eventually, it got Neptune and entered his body. Neptune was numb as his nether territory exploded. A dazzling sun was hanging in his cold and dark world. He had to run helter-skelter for his life. How could it be? How could it be? Ricardo was bewildered as he looked at the sky. Oh gosh! Farrell screamed hoarsely. Emperor Sea Shark was so surprised. He seized Shunrun, who had been wounded severely, and fled at his fastest speed. The vague shadow in front of Shi Yin suddenly roared inaudibly in between so many flames. Its energy run directly into everybody's soul. The warriors below third sky of Immortal Realm had their soul altars collapsed, their incipient extent shattered. Bodies exploded under the sea. All of a sudden, the seabed had more than hundreds of corpses. Those at third sky of Immortal Realm like Forefather Dragon Lizard, Tu Shirchi, Yayun, and the Forefather Earth Ghoul had to run away as they were pressed until their natural facial holes bled. Ricardo and Farrell gazed at that giant shadow for 3 seconds. They exchanged looks as they felt so chilled. Immediately, they ran away. So many space cracks in the seabed vanished into the seawater as if they were snow under the fire. If someone could use the soul consciousness to check the entire Sea of Annihilation, that person would see the immensely vast space of the Sea of Annihilation shrinking strangely. It was like a deflating balloon shrinking rapidly. Shi Yin was still bewildered and standing blankly as if his soul was gone. Audrey sat on a corner with the soul-refining cauldron in her head. The cauldron was fusing with her. Godlord Brian closed his eyes and floated in the sea like a blazing sun. Ming Hao, the Soul Control Chief, was kneeling on the ground. Lifting his head to see the formidable figure in the sea, he was begrudgingly desperate when the other had his life in his hand. After less than a minute, because of that terrifying shadow, the negative situation completely overturned. Hundreds of warriors at the Immortal Realm of the Sea of Annihilation were killed instantly, except for some third sky of Immortal Realm experts. Neptune's territory shattered. He had to run away as his soul altar was badly damaged. Ricardo and Farrell didn't dare to linger. They all ran away for their lives. The spacious seabed of the Sea of Annihilation now only had warriors from Desolate territory with the giant shadow. After a while, that shadow grabbed and tore a hole. Then, it scooped Audrey, Ming Hao, Brian, and Shi Yin. Then, it ran toward the entrance to Desolate territory. Shi Yin and the others were pulled into Desolate territory. Then, the massive shadow seemed to drain all the energy. It was divided into 3 pieces and returned to Shi Yin, Audrey, and the Godlord. The spacious Sea of Annihilation's seabed shrunk to a third of its original size. It seemed like someone had drawn the energy of the space here, so it had to vanish. After a long time, a white crystal skeleton came to the place where the battle had taken place. That skeleton was the territory ancestor hero of the White Bone clan. He was one of the 10 great territory ancestors of the vast sea of stars. Hero sensed for a while at that location. He was startled shortly after. The absolute beginning creature's aura. He lingered there for a long time, and then wandered around the Sea of Annihilation to find something. However, he got nothing, so he had to return to his clan. Time flew fast. At a corner of the seabed, it was a world of mist and smoke inside a broken star. A figure's body was in the shape of a ball inside the piece of that broken star. It was Meiji, unexpectedly wrapped in surging vitality. At this moment, Meiji's peerless appearance was recovered. Her skin was smooth and bright. However, her breathing was very feeble. Meiji woke up in the world inside the broken star. Her remaining god power was less than the time she was most wounded. Her sea of consciousness was about to collapse, and she couldn't even condense her soul consciousness. She wasn't feeling good. Without the surging vitality in this misty world, her soul magnetic field was going to vanish and end her life. As she didn't have enough god power, she didn't dare to get out of the misty world. She could only wait here. She had to wait for Shi Yin in agony. Using the tool fabricated by the Phantom Clan to measure time, she knew she had been here for several months. Shi Yin hadn't come yet. Tears lingered in her eyes. She thought that Shi Yin didn't survive this time. This misty world couldn't last for a long time. It was going to vanish soon. Meiji seemed to see herself walking to death. While her vision was blurred with tears, she saw a small figure appear outside the world in the rock. It looked like a little girl around 11 or 12 years old appeared. She looked really cute and pretty. The little girls looked at Meiji inside the rock. her eyes tender and loving. However, she spoke like a granny. Silly little child. The rock burst off and the misty world vanished. Meiji was released. Her eyes without focus looked at the little girl, and she spoke as if she was dreaming. Granny, sleep. Get good sleep. I'm here. No one can hurt you anymore. When you wake up, our phantom clan will have another territory ancestor. The little girl spoke softly. Meiji slowly closed her eyes. The little girl held her and nodded when she slept. They both vanished into thin air as if they were just a wisp of smoke. 3 days later, Farrell's lair in the Sea of Annihilation was cleared. The giant sea turtle he was riding was dismembered. Farrell's later generations were massacred. Farrell knew that, but he didn't dare to stand up against the murderers. He ran directly to the territory of the ancient monster clan, declaring his side. Then, he stayed hidden in the clan and didn't dare to get out. Almost at the same time, all the islands of the Soul Clan in the Sea of Annihilation were destroyed. The warriors of the Soul Clan based in the Sea of Annihilation were slaughtered. Neptune had already returned to the headquarters to cure his wounds. He was in a similar position as Farrell, hiding and retracting his neck. Chapter 1470, Shaking Fallout. Chapter 1470, Shaking Fallout. Underdeep in the sea domain of nihility. Countless ink-like clusters of clouds hovered in the void. That sea of black clouds carried the mountains, lakes, and many palaces and towers. The members of the Soul Clan were operating around. Groups of departed souls and ghosts flashed in the sky. It was a base of the Soul Clan. A black mountain range stretched on the black clouds. Wailing ghosts were crawling inside a black cloud where the muffled roaring echoed. Many members of the Soul Clan gathered by the cave and discussed secretly with sinister faces. Sir Neptune had bad luck this time. Even though he was at Territory Ancestor Realm, he had run helter-skelter to return. I heard that the absolute beginning creature Desolate appeared on the seabed of the Sea of Annihilation. It overturned the situation right away and killed many immortal realm experts of the Sea of Annihilation. Well, I heard rumors that Desolate is separated because it's severely hurt. The 3 parts of Desolate were on the seabed at that time. After the 3 parts had united, it was able to use its earth-shaking energy. Neptune was hurt badly, and he had to run away. Oh gosh, how formidable Desolate is. Just 3 pieces of his body, and he could assault Neptune badly? Most of the warriors of the Soul Clan who were discussing were at Incipient God Realm, or Immortal Realm. They were surrounding the cave as they were in charge of protecting Neptune and serving him. A lanky figure emerged from the sea of clouds far from them. He was a good-looking man with feminine contours. He looked around 30 years old and wore a simple brown-gray gown. Forefather Earthghoul was servile as he bent his upper body and followed the handsome man like a dog. The Soul Clan warriors who were discussing had hot and admiring looks on their faces when they saw the man. They kneeled down and screamed, "Welcome, tribal oldie serene prison." The handsome man with soft contours wore a faint smile as he nodded to them and entered the cave directly. Forefather Earthghoul came after him. The walls inside the cave hung billions of souls and ghosts. A chill-to-bone pond was situated in the middle of the cave with more departed souls and ghosts. Neptune was naked and soaking in that cold soul pond. Sometimes, his body flashed dazzlingly. After each flash, he screamed in agony. The soul pond was the ancient formation that used the souls in the mountain range as the source of energy. It was the place the Soul Clan used to heal elders and the commanders. After the handsome man got into the cave, he checked Neptune and sighed. "You had bad luck, indeed." Neptune was surprised when he saw Serene Prison come personally. He bowed slightly to show his respect while still staying in the pond. "I didn't estimate that 3 clones of Desolate gathered there. Because of my Soul River's threat, Desolate's consciousness was awakened deep in that kid's soul. It had used its supernatural power to gather the 3 clones and hit me hard." Forefather Earthghoul had already reported the incident on the seabed to Serene Prison. "How much time do you need to recover fully?" "I don't know." Neptune winced. "The light orb in my body continuously eroded my blood and flesh. If I hadn't returned on time, I couldn't have kept this body." Without the precious materials from earth and heaven, I will need at least 300 years. I lost the soul refining cauldron too. My competence is greatly reduced. I'm here this time to give you a territory soul our clan has nurtured for years. We've kept this soul for a long time. I hope that you will recover fast and improve your competence after you swallow it, said Serene Prison. Neptune looked thrilled. Why? The territory soul was actually the soul of an expert at third sky of immortal realm. With some secret techniques, they could nurture it until it was as strong as the soul of a territory ancestor. The Soul Clan saved this sort of soul for the warriors who were about to reach the territory ancestor realm. Taking a territory soul, the warrior could have a bigger chance to obtain dark energy and become a territory ancestor. The territory souls were very precious. There were a few of them in the entire Soul Clan. Normally, unless the territory ancestor was facing death, the clan wouldn't give the territory soul to recover him. Neptune thought that it was strange because his situation wasn't that hopeless. Although 300 years was a long period to recover, to the experts at his level, it was as long as a snap of his hand. However, it would take several thousand years or more to nourish a territory soul. Except for time, they needed to provide endless souls to that territory soul to help it grow. Neptune's 300 years was never be worth a territory soul. Our clan needs your power. If it were in the past, they wouldn't give you a territory soul. But now, the sea domain of Nihility's situation is changing. Within 300 years, a war will start. Thus, we must increase the clan's overall competence. Serene Prison wore a stern face. After you take this soul, not only should you recover, but I hope you will also increase your power. That's how we can ensure our advantages in the future war. Neptune pondered for a while in the soul pond. He bent his body and spoke in a low voice. I won't fail you. Serene Prison nodded to him. Mysterious Sky Clan's territory. Many ancient cities were built on a spectacular continent that was the combination of many continents. All the cities were colossal and majestic. That continent was another mysterious area of the sea domain of nihility that could attract free energy and make them flow into the continent. At the same time, there were so many asteroids hovering around and creating a natural jam to the battleships traveling through the area. Deep in the continent was a sealed area that only the ruling echelon of the mysterious Sky Clan could visit. That sealed area was actually a vast valley with dozens of bright entrances leading to different territories. Those territories belonged to the mysterious Sky Clan and were under their management. At this moment, Tu Shirchi, Yeyun, Forefather Dragon Lizard, and dozens of elders from the mysterious Sky Clan were gathering in the valley. All of them had stern countenances while gazing at an entrance. It was where Han Tian was ascetically cultivating. Everybody kept silent and waited for Han Tian. After an unknown time, the entrance radiated gold light rays. A brawny old man with bird nest hair walked out of the entrance. He glowed in good health, wore hempen garments, and was barefooted. He looked at the warriors surrounding. The members of our clan presented on the Sea of Annihilation's seabed at that time are you two? He looked at Tu Shirchi and Yeyun. The two nodded hurriedly. Han Tian sighed. That little girl Ling Mei was really talented. However, she has heavy mind schemes. I knew she would encounter a culpa, but I didn't know it came that early. Everybody kept their heads low and didn't dare to answer. Are you sure Shi Yin is Bloodthirsty's disciple? The shadow that appeared at the last moment was the combination of Desolate's 3 clones? He turned to Tu Shirchi. Tu Shirchi nodded. Shi Yin cultivates Death Power Upanishad and Devouring Power Upanishad. Yeah, there is no need to talk about the Death Power Upanishad, but the Devouring Power Upanishad? You told us that only Bloodthirsty cultivated such a power. Shi Yin must be his successor. About the phantom that flew out of Shi Yin and the other 2 warriors from the Desolate territory, it was likely Desolate. Dragon Lizard had sensed the distinctive aura of the absolute beginning creatures. Han Tian looked pensive for a few seconds. Bloodthirsty was more intimidating than you thought. If he was still alive, he could stir up the sea domain of nihility. Desolate is still incomplete. We can tell that from the fact that it stayed in 3 warriors. It seems that Desolate territory is really complicated. Forefather, What should we do? Too sure Chi asked for direction respectfully. Find the entrance to Desolate territory first. Otherwise, we can't do anything. Han Tian said as he shook his head with a sigh. Pay attention. I think the war between the 7 clans will happen soon. That expert of the Phantom clan has risen big waves in the Sea of Annihilation because Meiji was hurt badly there. Hero has personally come to the Sea of Annihilation to pick up their 2 ancestors. Fortunately, they haven't awakened yet. Otherwise, the trouble would be much bigger. Understood. 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 Sea of Annihilation. So many massive skull islands were moving slowly on the sea surface. The little skeleton was sitting cross-legged on one of those skull islands. His parents lay in the 2 coffins next to him. He was watching over his parents in silence. Hero of the White Bone clan was a little begrudging. We should return to the headquarters of the clan first. We will figure out how. We will find an expert cultivating life power Upanishad. Shi Yin has the life absolute beginning original symbol. He's the best choice, isn't he? Asked the little skeleton. Yeah, he's our best choice if we can find him. Hero's eyes turned dark. I was late. When I went there, everything was done. I searched around the Sea of Annihilation seabed, but I didn't find the entrance to Desolate territory. Anyway, I've asked our warriors in the Sea of Annihilation to check every entrance. Once we get the news, I will handle it personally. They are all trying to find the entrance to Desolate territory, right? Asked the little skeleton. Yeah, the members of the 7 clans are looking for the entrance to Desolate territory. Once they get it, many experts will go there. Hero nodded. The little skeleton kept silent. In a beautiful area of broken stars inside the sea domain of nihility, so many pieces of broken stars like crystals had piled up to create a massive, sparkling continent. This shining continent had so many flowers and luxuriant trees. The rivers here carried amazing spirit chi and meandered around the mountains with many precious birds. Many exquisite towers and palaces had decorated this continent. Beautiful people walked on the ground or rode the massive birds or shuttle. On an island, Meiji was sleeping inside a massive yellow crystal ball. The crystal ball had many lights moving around. Those lights brought tremendous energy, which eventually entered Meiji's body. After an unknown time, Meiji opened her eyes. Her blurry consciousness became clear. She knew that she was home. Her soul consciousness moved around. She found that the consumed soul consciousness had returned. Dark energy murmured inside the sea of consciousness. Her snowy incipient extent was slowly transforming and expanded immensely. She knew that she was just one step away from Territory Ancestor Realm. She needed to calm down her mind to transform her incipient extent to break through to Territory Ancestor Realm. She remembered the little girl who had come and rescued her, muttering with gratitude, "Thank you, Granny." Chapter 1471, Desolate Territory's Outer Layer. Chapter 1471, Desolate Territory's Outer Layer. Underscore deep inside the chaotic space basin, some silhouettes were gliding in cold and desolate area. They all looked exhausted and dispirited. Surprisingly, they were Xian He, Frederick, Adele, De Carlos, Lady, and Azure Dragon. They were immortal realm experts, the peerless existences in Desolate territory. That year, they had tried to worm through the space door that Shi Yin had opened. Hui had changed their destination. They didn't enter the sea domain of nihility. They were teleported to a strange and remote area in the chaotic space basin. As De Carlos also cultivated space power Upanishad, he had tried to break the space to return to Desolate territory. Unfortunately, the door between Desolate territory and the chaotic space basin was closed. De Carlos had reached the immortal realm, but he couldn't enter Desolate territory once again. This group of experts could only wander through the space basin and try to get out of here. After dozens of years, they were still here and had no clue. At this moment, they all looked glum as they were trying to resist the attacks from outer space streamers. The turbulent space basin didn't have Earth and Heaven energy. They couldn't refill the energy they had consumed. After dozens of years, half of their power was used. De Carlos, what's the relationship between Desolate territory and the chaotic space basin? Xianhe stood by Adele, his eyes restless and bitter. At first, he had been calm. The knot between him and Adele was untied, so it wasn't really troublesome to stay here. Then, as his god power got drained, he recognized that this was a dangerous situation and tried to find a way to survive. Thunder Dragon Lei and Holy Beast Azure Dragon couldn't get along still. They moved away from each other and quarreled all the time. But now, they were all calm and they didn't want to talk or argue anymore. Right, what's between the Desolate territory and the turbulent space basin? As you cultivate space power, Upanishad, I assume you know it, asked Adele. DeCarlos contemplated for a while and then used his god power to create a globe. The globe slowly ballooned until it was the size of a room. DeCarlos cut the space inside the globe, and they became misty areas. Slowly, those areas began to have light dots. Desolate territory looks like this globe. Each of the immense gray areas is a star area. Agate star area, ancient god star area, and Sirius star area are all in there. They're parts of the globe. Those light dots are the suns and moons of each star area. After DeCarlos explained, his power changed and beams of light shone inside the globe, creating many nodes as the beams crossed each other. The points where the light beams cross are space nodes that connect to each other. Warriors with space power Upanishad can use those nodes to move from one star area to another. Each star area has countless space nodes. Warriors with a profound space power Upanishad can use a space node to move to another space node in any corner of Desolate territory. Leaping through the star areas actually means jumping through space nodes. He wore a pensive face as he changed his power. So many misty areas appeared outside the globe like the atmosphere on a planet. The misty spaces form the chaotic space basin is separated from Desolate territory. They are separated by the territory barrier or that wall. That barrier was created by Desolate. It's hard to pierce through it. Until we reach Desolate's level, we can't tear its barrier. Previously, I could use the space nodes inside Desolate territory to jump and hide in the chaotic space basin. When the space nodes shatter, they will create space cracks leading to the space basin. Also, when I am in the space basin, I can use my space power Upanishad to jump back to Desolate territory through the space nodes. Pausing for a while, DeCarlos looked begrudging. But now, I can't connect with the space nodes inside Desolate territory. It's not that the space nodes are broken. Desolate's barrier has stopped my soul consciousness from piercing through. To be more exact, the entire Desolate territory is closed. We can't get in or get out. If Desolate is a globe and the space basin is outside this globe, from where did we enter sea domain of nihility? Asked Xianhe. I'm looking for it. I think we're close. The territory entrance is the adjoining area between Desolate territory and the sea domain of nihility. The sea domain of nihility has so many wonders. Perhaps we can find a way, said DeCarlos. Everybody was silent as they followed DeCarlos and wandered. After a long time, they had reached a place where mist and smoke hovered. The soul consciousness was blocked and DeCarlos had never visited this area before. The chaotic space basin is open. It's not smaller than sea domain of nihility. After I've reached the immortal realm, I often came here, but I have never explored it completely. I don't know many places, so it's easy to get lost. DeCarlos explained as he took people to that foggy area. This area has some strange and fierce energy fluctuations. Perhaps we may find something. Let's get in there and see. They moved through the thick mist. After several months, they crossed the area and a vast sea appeared in their vision. That sea bobbed in the chaotic space basin as if it was a living being. There was no end. However, as soon as Xianhe and the others saw the sea, they were excited and screaming. It's the river. We had followed this river to get to the sea domain of nihility. Listening to him, everybody was stimulated. They entered the sea and used the power Upanishads and God power to fly fast. There was no island on this sea. There was no rock either. The water was really shallow. They could see the bottom. The seabed looked vast and misty like a cloud, which was somehow marvelous. People flew through the sea and found the entrance to Desolate. Everybody now had hope. One day, as they were gliding fast, their faces changed. They had to lift their heads to observe. Far away from them, halos flashed. Then, they saw some figures surfing. He was surprised. He tried to run at his fastest speed in that direction. Everybody was hesitant as they followed the figures, their faces surprised. Shortly after, he was the first one to arrive at that area. At a first glance, he gawked and his jaw dropped. 3 people were unconsciously floating in the sea. They were Yin, Audrey, and Godlord Brian. They were still breathing steadily, but they seemed to be in some strange condition where they couldn't wake up. Minghao was there too. He was still in his soul form, but he looked baffled as if his soul was hurt severely. He was dumbly whining about something. Shortly after, Adele, Frederick, DeCarlos, Lady, and Azure Dragon gathered by him. Minghao, Yin, Godlord, Audrey, they all screamed as they were astonished. That year, they had followed Yin to escape, but they were scattered and had lost contact. Today, seeing Yin and the others, they instinctively thought that Hui had put them into the space basin too. They had to use their energy and now, they were exhausted. Minghao was baffled, but he was awakened from their screaming. He lifted his head and became completely bewildered. Why are you here? Minghao screamed in fear. We're always here. He answered. How about you guys? What happened to you? You've been trapped here, and you have consumed all of your energy? Minghao thought for a while, and then shook his head with a bitter smile. It's a lot more interesting. Sigh, I can't tell you in just one breath. We've just returned from the sea domain of nihility. The sea domain of nihility? He and Adele screamed in unison. Brother, what happened? Why is Audrey unconsciousness? Cried Adele. Minghao looked at Yin, Audrey, and the Godlord, his face complicated. I can't tell you in just a breath. We've been trapped here for dozens of years. We have plenty of time. You can take your time and explain, shouted DeCarlos. Minghao pondered for a while and then nodded with a forced smile. He explained everything in detail from the time he and the Godlord were locked on the seabed of the Sea of Annihilation. They couldn't escape until Yin came. Yin had the absolute beginning original symbol and the power Upanishad symbol tower, which had made so many warriors of the Sea of Annihilation vie for and rose the battle between the territory ancestors. Eventually, Yin's, Audrey's, and Godlord's souls had gathered and turned into a massive shadow, which had overturned the entire situation single-handedly. He and the others were astonished as they listened to him. If it wasn't told by you, I would never have bought it. I can't believe that the sea domain of nihility is much more wonderful than what we had thought, he sighed. I visited the sea domain of nihility, but I have never seen any warrior. According to you, perhaps, we were all wrong. Because we had taken the shortcut, we didn't appear on the seabed of the Sea of Annihilation. We deviated. He looked regretful. DeCarlos and the others also sighed. They were shocked by what Minghao had told them, and they sighed because of the adventure the others had taken. Eventually, they became quiet. After a while, Holy Beast Azure Dragon broke the silence. So, it's Desolate who rescued you and brought you back here. How is it now? Everybody was suspicious. Minghao turned to Yin and said bitterly. That shadow had separated into 3 parts and disappeared into their bodies once again. They are still unconscious now. I guess we have to wait until they wake up to know what happened. You say that you've been trapped here for dozens of years. Do you know the current situation of Desolate territory? Minghao changed the topic. This time, He and the others forced a smile. No, we know nothing. Before we've caught you here, we've been wandering around and trying to find the entrance to Desolate territory. We haven't seen anyone. We're just wasting our time here. Only the ghosts know what's going on in Desolate territory. Perhaps Hui has destroyed or even swallowed Desolate territory, sighed Adele. We must find a way to come back, shouted Minghao. Yin. DeCarlos looked shocked. He's the key. He cultivates space power Upanishad, and he fused with Grace Mainland. He can do what I can't. He can rely on the connection with the origin to make his power Upanishad pierce through the barrier. We'll wait for him then. Everybody agreed with him. Chapter 1472, Awaken One by One. Chapter 1472, Awaken One by One. Yin, Audrey, and the God Lord floated on the river. Their breathing was long and their vitality was surging. However, they hadn't woken up yet. He and Ming Hao hovered by them and tried to find a solution. The God Lord hasn't woken up yet. It's a good chance. We've been fighting against the God Clan for 10,000 years. As long as we kill him, the God Clan can't rise again. Frederick had ruthless light in his eyes, his face filled with murderous intentions. We can take revenge for our master. What do you think? He turned to He and Ming Hao, the two leaders of the bloodthirsty force. He shrugged and said, "Well, it seems that Ming Hao was happy when he stayed with the God Lord. Perhaps he doesn't want to take revenge for our master." Adele and the others turned to look at Ming Hao. Ming Hao's eyes were so deep as he pondered. After a while, he said coldly, "Right, I don't support killing Brian now because we don't know the situation in Desolate territory. If Desolate territory is now something in Hui and Tianxia's pocket, we need the God Lord to bond with the God Clan." "You think so?" He discolored. "I think after we had disappeared from Desolate territory, perhaps the God Clan is subject to Hui. See, the great four heavenly kings weren't here. They didn't leave with us. With their realms, they weren't equal opponents to Hui and Tianxian. They didn't have another option but death if they didn't surrender," said Ming Hao. They all kept silent after Ming Hao had explained it to them. Time flew hurriedly. Several months had passed like a blink of an eye. They still guarded the area and waited for Yin to wake up. However, it wasn't Yin who woke up the first. It was Audrey. Audrey had a long dream. She was so intimidating in her dream. She had fought and killed a lot of experts. In her dream, she had everything. After opening her eyes, she was bewildered as she found an item in her head. Her soul consciousness gathered, and she was surprised as she saw a little jade cauldron in her head, which, unexpectedly, used to belong to Neptune. Soul refining cauldron, an absolute beginning divine weapon. Audrey was so thrilled. The aura from the jade cauldron vaguely matched with her breathing, will, and thought. Also, it had even connected to her blood. That jade cauldron seemed to become her heart and limbs. It was the sign of a complete fusion. She sent a wisp of her soul to the inside of the cauldron. It was a wonderful world with countless soul drawings on the horizon of an immense, gray sky, creating a thick mesh net where so many souls were cultivating. The soul refining cauldron could keep, nourish, refine, and make souls cultivate themselves to upgrade. Audrey's cold face blushed in excitement. She squeezed her fists and almost screamed. Cough, cough. Ming Hao gave a slight cough to remind Audrey, waking her up from the world inside her head. Audrey's consciousness came back to her. She saw her mother, Adele, He, and Frederick. She couldn't help but cry in astonishment. "Why are you here?" "Do you know what happened to you?" asked Ming Hao. Audrey was bewildered. She tried to recall, but her mind was empty. "I don't know. It felt like my soul was sucked out. It was like a dream and I just woke up now." Swoosh. Ming Hong appeared on her shoulder like a little bat. He glanced at Audrey and said, "You've reached the immortal realm." Audrey and Adele screamed at the same time. He and the others were also surprised. You are." Adele pointed at Ming Hong. Ming Hong nodded. "Right. I am Ming Hong from Imperial Dark Tribe. 20,000 years ago, I was your grandfather's comrade. We'd accompanied each other for many years. Bloodthirsty had damaged us a lot. He also ended the ruling time of Imperial Dark Tribe. After that, the bloodthirsty force had risen. As you were with her all the time, you could know more." "What happened?" asked Ming Hao. Everybody put on a curious face. Ming Hong pondered, his voice deep. Yan's life was threatened by Neptune's dark energy attack. Desolate's blurry consciousness alerted that its host could be destroyed, so it burst out instinctively. Also, Audrey and Brian happened to be parts of Desolate. Their origins have independent consciousness. They found that Audrey and Brian could be killed in that circumstance. Thus, they proactively joined Desolate's clone in Yin. You mean the fusion of the origin of Grace Mainland, God-blessed mainland, and ancient God continent is also the fusion of Desolate's body parts? Desolate's 3 clones recognized the dangerous situation, so they had to join each other temporarily to use Desolate's supernatural power? Ming Hao was surprised. So, it wasn't Desolate itself who had appeared all of a sudden and gathered its clones. The real Desolate is still in Desolate territory. Perhaps it isn't in a good condition either. It wasn't free to care about the clones, right? Ming Hong shook his head. Desolate's 3 clones have independent consciousness, although they could be dormant while being fused with Shi Yin, Audrey, and the Godlord. Anyway, they still have complete intellect. They originated from Desolate, but they are independent of Desolate. Of course, if they gather together, they are Desolate. Ming Hong's words weren't so clear. However, they were all smart people as they understood what he wanted to say. The 3 clones knew the threat. They joined each other to get a part of Desolate's supernatural power to overturn the situation. Audrey's part had seized the soul-refining cauldron on behalf of her. Brian's part had taken the qualification to advance to the territory ancestor realm. At this moment, Godlord Brian has dark energy, explained Ming Hong. Everybody was frightened. They turned to look at the Godlord, and they found him awake and sitting above the sea. He opened his eyes and looked at the others, talking calmly with a nod. Precursor Ming Hong is correct. I've experienced many things in a dream. I've perceived something. And now, I understand dark energy. How about Shi Yin? Xian He and Frederick screamed. What did Shi Yin get? They all wanted to know this. Ming Hong forced a smile and shook his head. Logically, Shi Yan's consciousness is the strongest. Because when Desolate's 3 clones gather, Audrey's and Brian's had proactively come to join his origin. Audrey got the soul-refining cauldron, and she had entered the immortal realm. The Godlord got the dark energy that he had yearned for. As for Shi Yin, I actually don't know. Perhaps we have to wait until he woke up to know what he had harvested. The remarks made people speechless and more curious. They hoped that Shi Yin would wake up a little early. When did I swallow the immortal pellet? Audrey was shaken hard as she sensed the changes of her body and the magical transformation of her power Upanishad. In your dream, it has done everything it could. Ming Hong's eyes were filled with respect. After it had appeared, I stayed hidden in your incipient extent. I could vaguely see it using the immortal pellet to help you break through fast and enter the immortal realm directly. Don't think of anything else. Take a decent rest to carefully check the changes in your body and soul. Adele was so happy. She grabbed Audrey's hand and pulled her aside. Good child. It seems that you got the biggest harvest in the sea domain of nihility this time. Excellent. With you here, our Imperial Dark Tribe will thrive fast. I got all of Sing's slave souls from the Soul Clan. I know many secrets and techniques of the Soul Clan. They happen to match perfectly with our Imperial Dark Tribe's power Upanishad. Audrey's eyes brightened. I believe what I got can push Imperial Dark Tribe to another height. Excellent. Adele cheered. Brian, can you sense the situation of your ancient god continent? Asked Ming Hao. The God Lord lifted his head, his eyes glum. You're right. My clan has followed Hui. The situation of ancient god continent isn't right. I can vaguely check it. The 4 great heavenly kings now have an intimidating aura. I think they got dark energy too. Xian He, Frederick, and Lady paled. Carefree, Light, and the others were at second sky of immortal realm. They were strong already. Once they got dark energy, their competences were going to rocket. They would become the most terrifying opponents. Hui and Tian Xia must have done some business with them and enticed them with dark energy. Otherwise, with their nature and learning ability, they would never have been able to learn dark energy in just a short time like that, said the Godlord. Can you use the body of someone in your clan to get through the barrier and get back there? Asked Ming Hao. Brian shook his head. I don't cultivate space power Upanishad. Otherwise, I can try. Desolate territory is closed now. Only Shi Yin has a chance to take us out of here. He has the origin of Grace Mainland and the space power Upanishad. They are the advantages that we don't have. So we still have to wait for him to wake up? Lady forced a smile. You too have awakened. He's still unconscious. We have to wait until when? Do we have any method to wake him up? No, Ming Hao snorted. His condition only happens once in a blue moon. He must be learning something. If we wake him up, it will be dangerous somehow. We should just wait then. Right, we have to wait, said Xianhe. And they continued to wait for him. Time flew as fast as a shuttle. Several years had passed in the outer layer of the desolate territory. Xianhe and Ming Hao gradually went numb. They scattered to different areas of the river and discussed the power Upanishads or meditating alone. They had to wait for Shi Yin. They didn't have any alternative. Until Shi Yin began to shake. A terrifying energy fluctuated through his glabella. Then, the blood mark appeared on Xianhe's, Ming Hao's, and Frederick's forehead. Shi Yin has finally finished refining the energy he got from the seabed. This power is so amazing. He can't endure it, so our mark now emerges, screamed Ming Hao, looking so thrilled. Xianhe and Frederick were also excited. They gathered and sat cross-legged in front of Shi Yin to receive the enormous flood of energy that Shi Yin couldn't digest by himself. Chapter 1473, Apprehend the Creation. Chapter 1473, Apprehend the Creation. Ming Hao, Xianhe, and Frederick sat in a triangular formation in front of Shi Yin. They closed their eyes, focusing and releasing their soul consciousness. The blood mark emerged on their foreheads. At first, it was blurry, but then it became beautifully crimson. Shi Yin was still unconscious. Energy fluctuated terrifyingly in his body, especially deep in his brain. Waves of aura that could distort the soul made people worried about him. They thought that his soul would collapse soon. What's going on? De Carlos looked at Ming Hong in the distance with the hope that he would answer. Adele was bewildered. She looked at Ming Hao and Xianhe and felt worried. Ming Hao was her blood brother, and Xianhe was her lover. Of course, she didn't want anything bad to happen to them. Thus, she turned to ask Ming Hong, "What do you think?" Not far from them, De Carlos, Lady, and Azure Dragon also looked at Ming Hong and waited for his explanation. The battle on the seabed of the Sea of Annihilation had killed dozens of experts at the immortal realm. Shi Yin had quietly taken in the essence Qi and even their soul altars after they died. Those people had astonishing god power and powerful soul altars. I think the reason why Shi Yin has been unconscious for a long time is that he has to digest an enormous amount of energy. Ming Hong pondered for a few seconds and then said, after such a long time, his devouring power Upanishad would work again to release the energy. Shi Yin's body can't absorb all of them. He has to bestow the extra energy to the warriors cultivating the 8 great evil power Upanishads. Yeah, with their cultivation base, Ming Hao, Xianhe, and Frederick will receive great benefits from sharing the energy with him. Then, Ming Hong stopped and looked at the God Lord in vigilance. Although he didn't say anything, Adele, De Carlos, Lady, and Azure Dragon understood him. They then pulled serious faces. God Lord Brian opened his eyes, his face cold and dark. "You think I would seize this chance to attack them? While I was dormant, you didn't assault me. Would I do that now?" Snorting, he said, his voice stiff and cold, "I've been slaughtering everywhere for my whole life. I've killed a lot of people and destroyed a lot of planets. But I have never done such despicable deeds. When I killed Bloodthirsty that year, I didn't know that he was hurt severely. Although I like killing, I'm always straightforward. I have never done anything contemptible." "I think he knows how to behave," De Carlos curled his lips. "Today, we don't know the situation of Desolate Territory. The God Clan has subjected to Hui and Tianxia. He also needs our force." Harumph! The God Lord didn't have a friendly face. He looked as if he ridiculed their doubt. They could finally relax, but they were still careful enough to surround Shi Yin and the others in case the God Lord was going to launch his ambush. Swish, swish, swish. Wisps of gray energy flew out of Shi Yin's acupuncture points and glabella. There were hundreds of streams, which were divided into 3 parts and entered Ming Hao, Xianhe, and Frederick through the marks on their foreheads. Ming Hao and the others shuddered slightly. They couldn't help but grin excitedly when they received the pure energy. Xianhe sensed carefully. The stream of energy from Shi Yan's acupuncture points had turned into a cool stream, deluging his veins and running toward his god power ancient tree as soon as it got through the blood mark. His soul consciousness checked his body, and he saw that the branches of the god power ancient tree had become crystal like jade, each branch filled with pure energy. The ancient tree now looked like it was made of gemstone, sparkling beautifully and marvelously in his lower abdomen as the source of his enormous energy. As soon as the immense, gray streams of energy from Shi Yan's glabella had poured through the blood mark, it became the tonic to his soul, nourishing his soul altar and strengthening his sea of consciousness. At the same time, it helped his host soul discharge the dregs and contaminants. Eventually, his soul altar became sparklingly crystal clear. Frederick had the same feelings. The energy emitted from Shi Yan had strengthened their god power ancient tree, cared for their soul altars, and helped them refine their body and restructure their soul altars. Ming Hao was shaken. He felt so wonderful that he couldn't describe it. Ming Hao cultivated the soul altar and his soul. His sea of consciousness was immensely vast. Each wisp of his soul consciousness connected to a clone. In his sea of consciousness, so many souls were bobbing like mere people. The soul energy from Shi Yan had entered his sea of consciousness after it got through the blood mark. His soul altar had been quenched for hundreds of years, and his host soul had cultivated for tens of thousands of years. Suddenly, he felt a vibe. The energy that had entered his sea of consciousness carried true soul power, which was ultimately pure. Instantly, it mingled with his sea of consciousness. Ming Hao sensed for a while, and what Neptune had explained about the god power, dark energy, and the positive and negative energy suddenly became clear to him. Dark energy was the most refined and purest soul energy. The energy in the sea of consciousness had become clear as he had cultivated it with his own method. And now, it got the mysterious but intimidating energy. Oh, I got it. Ming Hao was so excited. He had a rare smile on his face. Dark energy was the soul energy. The real, pure soul energy. It was the refined God power, which then condensed and ascended to a whole new kind of soul energy. It was similar to his previous phrases. Before he had broken through to a new realm, the energy moving in his body was the original power. The original power was the energy of the low realm warriors. After they had broken through to profound realms, their power Upanishad and God body had transformed, and it was when they got their original power that they transformed to the God power. The God power was the original power that was condensed hundreds of times. The origin of the God power was the original power. In the same way, the origin of dark energy was the soul energy or the soul consciousness. It was a higher form of soul energy and soul consciousness. In short, dark energy was the true soul energy. He suddenly got the truth from his profound realm, and what Neptune had explained about dark energy together with the energy Shi Yan had gifted him this time. The soul energy Shi Yan was sending him now had the aura of dark energy, which provided him with a better chance to observe and learn. Xian He and Frederick were at only second sky of a mortal realm, so their bodies and soul altars hadn't advanced enough to perceive dark energy. They didn't know the mysterious features of dark energy, so they couldn't learn dark energy this time like Ming Hao. The energy that flew out of Shi Yan's labella hadn't ceased after several days. Adele had always noticed the God Lord as she was afraid that something unexpected would happen. Today, the God Lord, who had closed his eyes all the time, suddenly opened his eyes, revealing a pair of bright pupils. Adele, Lady, and the others changed their visages slightly. They couldn't help but turn tense and vigilant. Brian looked strange when he observed Ming Hao and grinned. Yeah, he's Ming Hao, just half a step behind me. He has dark energy. He's truly the leader of the 8 chiefs. He hopes to break through to the territory ancestor realm then. He's my lifetime rival. Hearing him, Lady, Azure Dragon, and De Carlos were very surprised. They then sighed and envied the others. They exchanged looks and saw the complicated thought on each other's faces. When they looked at Shi Yan again, Ming Hao and Xian He looked odd. Many years ago, in this vast, desolate territory, only Bloodthirsty had dark energy. It was also the reason why he had become the overlord of the Sea of Stars, the most acknowledged powerful expert. After he was gone, his body scattered in many places. The Godlord, Ling Xiang, Caesar, and Lorraine had used his bones to study the power of dark energy. However, none of them could figure out anything. Ling Xiang, Caesar, and Lorraine were at the first sky of a mortal realm. Their bodies and soul weren't strong enough to perceive the energy. Thus, they were just wasting their efforts. As Brian and Ming Hao had known nothing about dark energy, they couldn't get the key from Bloodthirsty's remains. It was like the blind groping on things, but didn't know what they were. Quite the contrary, Shi Yin, unknowingly, had used the devouring power Upanishad and become the first expert to get dark energy after Bloodthirsty. After Brian and Ming Hao had come to the sea domain of nihility, they knew how vast the world was. They knew about the territory ancestors, and what they talked about was dark energy. As they were the two outstanding and talented experts, they somehow got the key after listening to Neptune. Today, as Desolate's clones had affected them and with dark energy from Shi Yin, these two had cleared the thick mist in their heads to perceive this advanced form of energy. After Shi Yin, Brian and Ming Hao had successfully received dark energy at their third sky of a mortal realm. Once they got dark energy, they were just one step away from the territory ancestor realm. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The acupuncture points and the glabella in Shi Yan's body sounded strange. Eventually, the streams of energy emitted from him ceased. Xian He, Frederick, and Ming Hao pulled themselves together to check their bodies and absorb the energy. At the same time, when the extra energy was discharged, Shi Yan's acupuncture points and the black hole, which were his sluggish, delicate tools, were now moving again at a fast speed. Finally, Shi Yan's consciousness returned to him. Refined energy from 720 acupuncture points in his entire body had entered his incipient extent. A marvelous wonder slowly unfolded in his galaxy incipient extent. The streams of energy in his acupuncture points swarmed into his incipient extent. Slowly, his incipient extent looked emptier as it expanded. The misty air hovered as if it was earth and heaven energy. It looked like a cluster of something chaotic. Slowly, that chaotic area had some changes. The pure earth and heaven energy slowly condensed and became brilliant stars with mountains, lakes, and foliage. Shi Yin was shaken as if he had seen the images of a newborn world. He felt so touched that he wanted to cry. The earth and heaven energy in his incipient extent was clusters of moving air. When they expanded, they also widened the area. When they gathered, they created planets with mountains, lakes, and plants. Vaguely, he saw some shapes of creatures. However, all of them didn't have a soul. Whether it was the stars, the mountains, or an animal, they were just like a stone table. They were dead things. Until the black hole released pure dark energy, a mysterious soul aura was poured into the incipient extent. All of a sudden, some stars in his incipient extent seemed to get their soul flames ignited. They now had a feeble consciousness. At this moment, his host soul felt like the creator. He could feel the naive and shy consciousness of the newborn stars and the muffled, bewildered thoughts when their intellect had just formed. Chapter 1474. Chapter 1474. Indifferently watch the heaven and earth change under thumb. The heaven and earth original energy had turned into the planets and other entities. The dark energy had improved lives with souls. It was the way of creation. Today, Shi Yan's incipient extent had played the way of creation. Heaven and earth energy from his acupuncture points flooded the incipient extent, expanding it. Next, the cluster of chaotic gas was created, which then generated the planets, mountains, and rivers. The dark energy gushed from the black hole as the source of the soul, granting the feeble soul consciousness to those planets. Shi Yin was the master of this world. His consciousness could reach everywhere to check the smallest of changes. He quietly observed everything. Gradually, his comprehension became deeper, and he finally understood the origins and marvels of God power and dark energy. The God power existed in the abdomen of the warriors, which they had created by collecting and condensing the energy from heaven and earth or divine crystals. The essence chi from the dead that his acupuncture points had absorbed was also a kind of heaven and earth energy. It was the god power remaining in the warriors he had absorbed right before it vanished, returning to the heaven and earth. After it was filtered and refined in his acupuncture points, it turned into the basic pure energy of the world. This basic energy of heaven and earth was the root of creating everything. When he brought it in his incipient extent, he could create many things. The soul altars and the soul energy the black hole had taken up would turn into the dark energy after the refining process inside, which was also a truly pure soul energy. The origin of the dark energy stayed in the soul and soul consciousness of the warriors. After it had entered his incipient extent with the soul energy magnetic field, it could deliver life to the stars there. He quietly sensed and observed his incipient extent, finding that the dark energy in his incipient extent was just enough to give an immature consciousness to a few stars. However, it couldn't grant intellect to the animals he had created or create the new races with a flesh body and soul. Shi Yin thought that it was because his realm and understanding of the dark energy weren't profound enough. He suddenly understood that having real creatures in his incipient extent was the key of transforming it into a territory. The territory ancestor realm. Unfortunately, he was just at the second sky of a mortal realm. He was still a distance away from the territory ancestor realm, which was neither short nor long. Sensing the changes of his body, soul, and incipient extent, his consciousness lingered in his sea of consciousness and found a strange pond there. That pond was jet black, and it was just the size of a lower millstone. It wasn't even 1/1000th the area of the sea of consciousness. The thing that was moving inside the pond was the pure dark energy. It was the true soul energy. The tiny soul pond had occupied a bit of area, but was the core of the entire sea of consciousness. The black hole was moving above the pond. Sometimes, a drop of energy fell from the black hole like a raindrop. It was the purest dark energy that was refined out. The black hole had swallowed so many soul altars of the immortal realm experts, and after a long time of refining, the extra soul energy that hadn't turned into dark energy had poured into Ming Hao, Xian He, and Frederick. After thousands of refinements, the dark energy was finally created. A part of it had arrived at the sea of consciousness, and the other part was dripping into the newly formed soul pond, which was Shi Yan's dark energy. Retrieving the soul consciousness, he found his god power ancient tree filled with rolling, crystal clear god power. The tree's branches had become sparklingly fulgent. His thought flickered, and he immediately recognized that he had reached the upper limit of the second sky of a mortal realm. His entire god power ancient tree was filled with god power, and his fleshy body had been quenched one more time. Each of his muscle fibers was brimming with vitality. He hadn't reached the third sky of a mortal realm, so his understanding of power Upanishads wasn't enough. However, when he observed the god power ancient tree in his lower abdomen and the soul pond of dark energy in his sea of consciousness, he was still satisfied. He suddenly recognized that the soul pond in his sea of consciousness was the key to opening his door to the territory ancestor realm. The dark energy could grant souls to the creatures in his incipient extent, which would make him the real owner of a territory. That was how he could create his old universe. He sat cross-legged, perceiving the slightest changes in his body as time flew hurriedly. In the long river without days and nights, Adele, Lady, and Azure Dragon were restless as if they had a flame burning their hearts. To them, each day was as long as an entire year. The Godlord, Xian He, Frederick, Ming Hao, and Audrey were calm. They all had harvested something. At the critical path of their cultivation, they didn't hurry to return to the desolate territory. Audrey had just entered the immortal realm, and she had obtained the soul-refining cauldron. She had taken time to get used to it as well as her new realm. She also studied the power Upanishads of the Soul Clan, sinking happily in new concepts and knowledge all the time. The Godlord and Ming Hao had obtained the magical dark energy. They wanted to spend all of their efforts in exploring the new energy and its wonderful features. Xian He and Frederick had made them even more astonished. After they got the energy from Yin, they had a new level of understanding of the power Upanishads. From the second sky of a mortal realm, they had powerfully leaped to the next realm, finally entering the third sky of a mortal realm. He and Frederick were so thrilled that they wanted to spend more efforts to obtain the new powers of the new realm. Yin was like a rock. He sat still, but nobody knew the earth-shaking changes inside him. Long afterward, Audrey, Godlord, and Ming Hao woke up. They talked and waited for a while, then He and Frederick woke up as well. From the time Yin gave us the energy until we broke through to the third sky of a mortal realm and stabilized our realm, how long has it been? When He opened his eyes, he knew that a long time had passed. He smiled while turning to Adele. Adele's eyes were glum. Almost 30 years. 30 years. He muttered something and then got up, stretching his body. Not really long. Adding the time we were locked here for, it's around 100 years. Short, though. Yeah, it's short. But, with the unclear situation of desolate territory and the fact that we didn't cultivate like you guys, it was really tough for us to wait for 30 years. Adele's voice was bitter. Then, what should we do? He shrugged, pointing at Yin. If he doesn't wake up, no one can return to desolate territory. Everybody quieted down. Only Yin was the warrior with an origin in the space power Upanishad. They had to count on him. They continued to wait for 3 more years. Eventually, Yin opened his eyes, with 2 galaxies moving in them at this moment. He gave people an impression of something deep and unimaginable. After dozens of years of meditation, Yin had observed the mysteries of the word at its finest dawn. He felt it had been hundreds of thousands of years, as if he had gone through the heaven and earth's process of a whole era. After he had awakened, he felt that his body and mind were a little tired. This kind of tiredness only happened to the aged warriors. It was the feeling of seeing hundreds of thousands of lives and countless times of rising and lowering tides. He and the others turned to Yin, their minds shivering. They all felt something archaic and melancholic from him. They knew he was pretty young, but looking at him now, they had a strange feeling that he was even older than them, and that he had experienced so many eras. Even Holy Beast Azure Dragon, the oldest expert in this group, was startled for a while. He shook his head, talking skeptically. Why do I feel like he's been living even longer than me? It's just around 100 years we didn't meet, right? His bearing has changed greatly. Before he went dormant, he didn't have this aura. Seems like after this deep slumber, he underwent something more magical than us. The God Lord pondered and then asked all of a sudden. Yin, what did you get? Desolate's clones had helped Audrey get the soul-refining cauldron in the immortal realm, and the God Lord had gotten the dark energy he had yearned for. Brian believed that Yin had obtained a bigger harvest. What did I get? Yin was a little bewildered. I'm still at the immortal realm. Seems like I don't have any significant changes. Talking about harvest, perhaps it's... He didn't talk more. Everybody was so curious. They gazed at him with their feelings boiling, as if they wanted to eat him. Yeah, I may have vaguely seen the principle of the Great Path. I saw the changes of the world at its finest dawn, and I've experienced the wealth and decline of an era. Yin wasn't so certain. The ones around him didn't get it either. It's the understanding of power Upanishad, principles, and progress of heaven and earth. It's a harvest we can't measure. They're the priceless experiences in this world. They'll benefit you greatly in your realm, power Upanishads, and even body. You'll know soon. DeCarlo said. Hearing him, people thought carefully. Although they all got something, they still showed a crazily envious countenance toward Yin. Brian and Ming Hao got the dark energy. He and Frederick have entered the third sky of a mortal realm, and Audrey's broken through the immortal realm. Wonderful. It's excellent, guys. Yin turned to them, smiling relaxedly. You guys are waiting for me to open the door to desolate territory, aren't you? Everybody felt magical as they nodded. All right, we should go home. I still have a connection with the Grace mainland, Yin grinned. He didn't wait for the others to talk more, using the space power Upanishad to create a light door, then walking through it. Everybody was stunned. Seeing Yin create a light door and leave, Adele, Lady, and the others, who had been waiting for this moment for a long time, were suddenly hesitant. It has been more than 100 years. I don't know how desolate territory has changed. I don't dare to face it. I'm afraid it'd be a bowl of rice on Huey's table now. Lady was a little scared. Not only him, the Godlord and Ming Hao were also a little afraid. When the door emerged, this feeling became clearer. It was the fear they felt toward the unknown. As it has come to this, what can we do if we're fearful? The 4 heavenly kings have betrayed me. I'm not afraid. What are you afraid of? The Godlord snorted. As the others were hesitating, he was the second one walking through the door. Ming Hao and Audrey followed him. Xian He, Frederick, and the others had been stuck here for many years. During the course, they had thought a lot and worried a lot. They hadn't come to the sea domain of nihility to see the territory ancestors, and they hadn't seen the bigger world. They were scared, so they didn't dare to move. This door has a time limit. If you linger, it will close. De Carlos shivered as he changed his face while screaming, then resolutely jumped into the door. Xian He, Frederick, and Adele didn't hesitate, jumping into the door one after another. The light door slowly closed, eventually turning into beams of light and vanishing. Chapter 1475, Return. Chapter 1475, Return, __, Immortal Island, Endless Sea, Grace Mainland. The Immortal Island today had become the area with the thickest heaven and earth energy on the Grace Mainland, and the liveliest city. The Immortal Island was managed by the Yang and Shi families. Many strong forces of the Agate Star area were based on the surrounding islands. Those forces were submitted to the Immortal Island. Inside a small valley on the island, a light door suddenly appeared, Shi Yin walking out of the door in the next second. He faced the sky, closing his eyes to sense with a calm face. The Grace Mainland didn't have anything abnormal. As soon as he landed, his co-soul immediately contacted the entire continent. As his soul flickered, every slightest commotion in the continent had been projected in his mind like a clear picture. It was the privilege that only the master had. Oh! He couldn't help but scream. He found that the warriors of the bloodthirsty force like Yang Tian Emperor, Blood Devil, Leona, Phelan, and Ka Tua had gathered by the island. Xiaoxian Yin, Feng Han, Ling Xing, Gu Te, and Bath were also on the Grace Mainland. He pondered for a while and then released the soul consciousness, calling his friends and family. Yang Tian Emperor and Blood Devil were cultivating. They lifted their heads and found Shi Yan's giant face created by the clouds in the sky. Shi Yan was like a god floating in the sky, sending his soul message. Come to the mountain on the Immortal Island. At the same time, the clouds in the sky where Xiaoxian Yin, Feng Han, Gu Te, and Bath were cultivating also created Shi Yan's face with the same message. The Heavenly Monster Mountain Range in the Vault of Heaven Sea area also had the same call. At the same time, in different corners of the Grace Mainland, the warriors who were related to Shi Yin also found his face in the sky. Shi Yin was like a god calling for his disciples. He asked his followers to come behind the mountain on the Immortal Island. When they received the message, they dropped all the activities they were performing to rush toward the meeting place. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The Godlord and Audrey walked out of the light door. Adele was the last one to arrive. The light behind Shi Yin closed and vanished. Something's wrong. As soon as Godlord Brian had descended, his face changed. His eyes gazed at the horizon as if he could cut through layers of spaces. The connection between the ancient god continent and I is completely cut off. I have no way to sense the commotion on the ancient god continent. I can't feel the aura of the god fellows. Me neither. Audrey screamed bewilderedly. Audrey and the Godlord had fused with the origin of the god-blessed mainland and the ancient god continent. Logically, as long as they were in desolate territory, no matter how far they were from their homeland, they could still sense the aura of the two continents. At Godlord Brian's level, his soul could even contact the members on the ancient god continent. However, the connection between them and the origin was cut off. being the leaders, but they couldn't sense the commotions on their own homelands, which scared them to the point of discoloring. They didn't know what had happened. Song Yuan is dead. Azure Dragon sensed for a while, and then turned ashen. His origin was robbed. Who did that? Seems like many things have happened to the Desolate territory. So strange. Right after De Carlos arrived, his body flashed and then disappeared as if he had pierced through the space to leave. Shi Yin wanted to confirm the situation of the Agate Star area. Seeing De Carlos leaving, he didn't want to waste his efforts. He just needed to wait for De Carlos then. After several minutes, De Carlos reappeared in a flash. His face was heavy, and his eyes astonished. So many star areas have merged with each other in the Desolate territory. The barriers between the star areas have shattered as they came close together. And now, we have only 3 great star areas. There are so many layers of barriers between these 3 star areas. It seems all the available barriers of the star areas have piled up to protect the 3 star areas. It's really difficult for me to get through those barriers. De Carlos bewilderedly said, "Provide more details." Shi Yin snorted. If Shi Yin were rude like that earlier, De Carlos would have taught him a lesson for sure. But Shi Yin was at the second sky of a mortal realm now, just like him, and the former could be even slightly stronger. De Carlos didn't dare to look down on Shi Yin. He wasn't enraged. Instead, he explained seriously. Agate Star Area, Fiery Rain Star Area, Fantasy Misty Star Area, Dry Bone Star Area, Fearsome Hollow Star Area, Prosaic Star Area, Sirius Star Area, Black River Star Area, and Earth Eye Star Area have merged together. They are now a single great star area. Besides the Grace mainland, I can vaguely feel Desolate around. Seems like it stays within this interstar area. Listening to him, everybody was frightened. Shi Yin closed his eyes to sense for a while. His soul consciousness pierced through space, moving around. A new star map emerged in his sea of consciousness. This interstar area consisted of so many star areas, with countless suns and moons, as well as billions of warriors dwelling on countless life stars. The forces from the Agate Star area, like the Drifting Fire, Gu God Sect, by family, Wu family, and Xiao family, were scattered in the new spectacular star area. They seemed ready for a great war that could burst out at any minute. True. Many star areas have merged with each other, Shi Yin said with surprise. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Finally, his fellows had arrived. Yang Tian Emperor, Blood Devil, and the others had arrived first. They were so excited when they saw Shi Yin. Yang Tian Emperor had tears in his eyes, choking on his words, "You're still alive, boy." Soon, Xiaoxian Yin, Fu Wei, Ling Xing, Gu Tei, and Bath arrived. Shi Yin was also emotional that many words were stuck in his throat. He didn't know how and what to tell them. What happened? Ming Hao saw Yang Tian Emperor and Blood Devil come, his face turning ferocious. "Why didn't you guys stay in the Blood Sea, our forbidden land? We had run away from there. I'm afraid we can't get in there again." Blood Devil forced a smile. He had also entered the immortal realm, and the life energy on him was fierce. He glanced at Xian He while shaking his head. "I'm afraid you guys can't go there either." As soon as he said that, the 3 chiefs of the bloodthirsty force, including Xian He, Ming Hao, and Frederick, urged their power Upanishads to activate the mark. After a while, their faces discolored, turning heavy and dark. Just like Blood Devil had said, they had lost the connection with the Blood Sea, their forbidden land. They had lost the bloodthirsty force's headquarters. "Give it a try." They turned to Shi Yin. Shi Yin used the method he used to trigger the blood mark with, trying to connect to the whirlpool in the Blood Sea, but he got nothing. What happened? Shi Yin was so surprised. 100 years ago, Wetterson came to the Blood Sea, our forbidden land. He had suddenly become so fierce and unrivaled, ruling over the entire Blood Sea. He said that he was the true heir of Bloodthirsty. He can use 8 power Upanishads and the devouring power Upanishad as well. He said that Shi Yin and the 3 great chiefs were dead, and he was the new master. After we found that things went wrong as many people had fought him and were devoured, we could only run away. He killed all the rebellious warriors, Blood Devil explained. Wetterson, Godlord, Ming Hao, and Xian He screamed in unison. He was dead, wasn't he? Wetterson was a hybrid between the God Clan and the Man Tribe. When he was young, he had swallowed bloodthirsty spawn that Gato had eroded. He then successfully transformed and obtained the terrifying corrosion power Upanishad. While fighting against Hui, the Godlord and Ming Hao had made use of him by implanting bloodthirsty spawns into his body, which had maximized his corrosion power Upanishad. He had wounded Hui and given Shi Yin a chance to get the dark energy and ascend his life form. At that time, Wetterson's soul energy was burned, and he was dead when his energy ran out. How could he be resurrected? Mastered the 8 great evil powers and the devouring power Upanishad. He's not Wetterson. He's the ring spirit, the soul that Xin Shan had summoned on the ancient god continent. He's the young master of the devouring clan, Devour's later descendant. After Hui unsealed him, he had run away. He obtained Wetterson's body, I suppose. At that time, Wetterson's soul was destroyed, leaving a body full with bloodthirsty's remains. He has occupied the body. Shi Yin pondered and then continued, had fought against some devouring clan warriors in the Sea of Annihilation. I knew that some young master of the said clan had begun something. He has come to our desolate territory. Perhaps he's Devour's heir. The members of the devouring clan understood the 8 great evil powers, and Xian Shan's ring spirit had the inheritance of the devouring power Upanishad. When that one entered the blood vein ring and swallowed the original ring spirit, he had obtained the inheritance. He had enticed Shi Yin, trying to seize his body with many evil tricks. Eventually, Ming Hao had sealed him inside the blood vein ring. During the fight with Hui's power had helped him tear the seal, and that person had run away with the blood vein ring. He got Wetterson's body, so now he could exist in desolate territory as a real entity with a fleshy body and soul. Turns out it's him. Ming Hao and Xian He wore a heavy complexion. How about Bloodthirsty Force? He has become the new master of Bloodthirsty Force. Besides us who ran away, the 8 branches of the Bloodthirsty Force have followed him. He's so intimidating. He's getting stronger day after day. Today, under his command, the Dark Abyss is towering over the ancient demon continent. That Dark Abyss seems to have a consciousness, slowly devouring the ancient demon continent. Blood Devil said, the Imperial Dark Tribe and the members of the Immortal Demon Clan are submitted to him. The Imperial Dark Tribe star area and the Immortal Demon Clan star area are adjoined along with many other smaller star areas. They are his territory now. The Dark Abyss seems to have life and consciousness. Ming Hao was so shocked that he couldn't help but yell, "It has awakened." Who? Many people didn't know the details. Ling Xing and the others were confused. Devour has awakened. The one that has occupied Wetterson has awakened it. The ancient demon continent's a part of Desolate. As the Dark Abyss is corroding the ancient demon continent, Devour's attempting to refine Desolate's body parts. Ming Hao shouted. Chapter 1476, New Structure. Chapter 1476, New Structure __. The Imperial Dark Tribe has followed him. Does it mean the God-blessed mainland has merged with that new star area too? Adele cried ear-piercingly. Yeah, right? The God-blessed mainland is right next to the ancient demon continent. Blood Devil explained. Devour is swallowing the ancient demon continent. Once it is finished, it will continue with the God-blessed mainland. The ancient demon continent and the God-blessed mainland are parts of Desolate. After Devour's done with it, I wonder what earth-shaking transformation would happen to the desolate territory. Ming Hao wore a grimace. What about the other great star area? Godlord Brian shouted. Yang Tian Emperor looked at him oddly. The center of that star area is the ancient God star area. The ancient God star area has merged with the Fantasy Sky star area, Broken Hall star area, Heavenly River Temple star areas, and dozens of major star areas the God Clan has conquered. It's the biggest star area now. The God Clan, the Tsunami Chamber of Commerce, the Broken Hall, and the Heavenly River Temple manage that interstar area. They worship Goddess Mother, and Tian Xie is their spokesman. The four great heavenly kings also serve the goddess mother. At this moment, they're the strongest force in this sea of stars. The god lord paled, his eyes burning with a flame of wrath. Devour is eroding the ancient demon continent, while Huey's attacking the ancient god continent. Seems the two absolute beginning creatures have eaten Desolate's clones throughout the recent 100 years. DeCarlos sighed. The group of warriors from the space basin returning to the Grace mainland looked grave when they understood the current situation of Desolate territory. A black cluster of clouds shadowed their souls, suffocating them. It was the threat from the two absolute beginning creatures. Hui and Devour were the two existences at the same level as Desolate. Because of many reasons, the two great absolute beginning creatures had been dormant for so many years. As they had finally awakened, they wouldn't want to stay quiet anymore. They would raise a storm in Desolate territory, stirring up the entire universe. Why have so many star areas joined together? Xianhe was panic-stricken. It was just a short period of 100 years. How could Desolate territory change so much? What happened after all? As the star areas are changing greatly, I'm afraid Desolate is losing its control. Desolate's losing its supreme power over its own territory. It's not a good sign, Minghao remarked. Where's Tsongyun? Azure Dragon wore a cold face, looking at the members of the heavenly monster tribe. He asked Hugo, the connection I lay on him is gone. Has something bad happened to him? Azure Dragon had high expectations from Tsongyun. He worried that the latter would be killed, so he had laid a wisp of his soul consciousness on him to get updated with his situation. During the time he had wandered in the chaotic space basin, because Desolate was closed, he couldn't sense Tsongyun's commotions. Today, as he had entered Desolate territory once again, he should have been able to find Tsongyun easily with his realm. However, the connection was gone. Tsongyun is dead. Hugo stooped, not daring to look at him. How did he die? Azure Dragon was enraged. Tsongyun had a dispute with Ghost Hunter. They burst out fighting furiously, and Ghost Hunter killed him in that fight. Ghost Hunter had swallowed him. Hugo remembered the old story, causing his face to panic. The other members of the heavenly monster tribe who came with him also had a grimace. It seemed they didn't want to recall that incident. Ghost Hunter swallowed him? How could it happen? Shi Yin was also panic-stricken. It's true. Ghost Hunter's competence has been increasing rapidly and vigorously. It seems like he would never stop growing. Hugo winced. That year, you had spent a lot of efforts on Ghost Hunter. You wanted him to become the next chief of the heavenly monster tribe. Tsongyun was discontented, apparently. Holy Beast Azure Dragon went numb, his face bitter. I was wrong. I should have predicted their conflict. Too bad I wasn't here. Otherwise, I could have stopped them. Pausing for a while, he suddenly remembered him, shouting, "Where's Ghost Hunter?" Missing? Hugo shook his head. After he had swallowed Tsongyun, we tried to capture him and wait until you came back to solve the situation. But his animal instinct burst out, and he escaped the Grace mainland. We haven't seen him ever since. No one knows where he is. Missing? Azure Dragon was baffled. He was shocked, not knowing how to deal with this. We bid farewell here. God Lord Brian resumed his cold, arrogant appearance after keeping silent for a long time. He nodded at Shi Yin and Ming Hao, but didn't regard anybody else. He flew out of the Grace mainland, turning into a jet of light and zooming away quickly. Xianhe, I'm going to the Bloodsea Forbidden Land. What about you guys? Ming Hao turned to Xianhe and Frederick. Of course, we have to go back there and check. We want to observe that Wetterson, said Xianhe. Our Imperial Dark Tribe has submitted to him. I also want to go there and see. I can't believe that he's the one Xian Shan had summoned from outer space. Adele sighed. I want to go with them. Audrey's clear eyes looked at Shi Yin, who gave her a slight nod. You're not going to the Bloodsea Forbidden Land? Ming Hao was surprised. To me, my family and friends on the Grace mainland are more important than anything else. Until now, I've never been interested in being the master of the bloodthirsty force. I am used to working alone. I don't have the talent to direct a force. Shi Yin thought and then smiled. Ming Hao, You're at the peak of Immortal Realm, just one step away from the Territory Ancestor Realm. I think it wouldn't be a problem when you go back there with Xian He and Frederick, as long as you don't rebel against Devour. At your current realm, I can't force you anymore. Stay here as you wish. Ming Hao didn't want to talk him into this. Godlord Brian, Ming Hao, Xian He, Frederick, Audrey, and the Imperial Dark Tribe experts left the Grace mainland immediately. As Ming Hao is a master in space power Upanishad, he created many space passages after they had leaped up. Shortly after, their auras disappeared. What about you guys? Shi Yin turned to DeCarlos. I'm going to see if I can find Desolate. I want to check its brain. DeCarlos looked pensive. I can feel that Desolate is right in this star area. I know it has to mind the change of the sea of stars more than anybody else. I want to pry and see what it thinks about this. Sounds good, Shi Yin nodded. With that, DeCarlos and Lady left the Grace mainland as well. Shortly after, only Holy Beast Azure Dragon stayed. The Grace mainland was the ancestral land of the Heavenly Monster tribe, and Azure Dragon was one of the holy ancestors of this tribe. He had to stay here and protect the Heavenly Monster tribe. He needed to use the force of the tribe and his power to find Ghost Hunter. He thought that Ghost Hunter was stronger than Tsang Yun, so he was more suitable to become the next chief of the Heavenly Monster tribe. Shi Yin, what happened? Why had you guys disappear for 100 years? After all those people had left, Xia Xian Yan's eyes showed her deepest affection while asking. Yang Tian Emperor, Blood Devil, Leona, and Fei Lan looked at him as well, waiting for his explanation. It's a long story. Behind the mountain in the Immortal Island, Shi Yin forced a smile, telling the others his experiences. He met Hui in the chaotic space basin, who defeated him and then sent him to the sea domain of Nihility. Shi Yin told them every detail of the story. The ones who stayed here were all his friends and family. Shi Yin trusted them, so he didn't need to conceal things. They listened to what he had experienced during 100 years and sighed in fear. They were touched when they heard about the marvels of the sea domain of Nihility and the intimidating warriors there. It was the first time they knew that Desolate territory was just one of the hundreds of thousands of territories. It was just a drop in the sea. However, they were astounded when they found that Shi Yin had reached the second sky of Immortal Realm. At his age, it was incredible as he could break through from the incipient God Realm to the second sky of Immortal Realm in just 100 years. People felt minute compared to him, knowing that their realm was too low. Shi Yin talked for a long time. He had told them everything he had experienced in 100 years. It seemed he had replayed the events one more time. Eventually, he turned to the others, talking happily. It's good to see that you guys are safe and have made good progress. Yeah, I need time to reorganize my thoughts and think about the changes of the 3 great star areas. I need time to rest. People nodded, indicating their understanding. They knew he was baffled on seeing the changes of Desolate territory. He would need time to adjust himself. They began to leave, but some chose to stay, cultivating in the cave near the valley. They were waiting for him to give them directions after he woke up. He really had a lot of things to think and clarify. He vaguely felt that the earth-shaking changes of Desolate territory weren't simply because of Desolate losing control of the territory. Perhaps it was because of Hui and Devour. In his incipient extent, he had experienced a lot of things. He had seen a similar structure of heaven and earth at its very dawn. He had learned a lot, and now he needed time to rearrange his thoughts. He had a seal in his host soul, which had been there since he got the devouring power Upanishad. That seal stayed in his soul, and he could use it to send the energy to the warriors cultivating the 8 great evil power Upanishads. What was that blood mark? He had thought for a long time, and had finally come to a conclusion. He guessed it was the absolute beginning original symbol of devouring power Upanishad that bloodthirsty had got. When he received his inheritance, it had entered his soul as well. He wanted to break that blood mark to understand the root. He needed to comprehend the origin in his co-soul to seize the memory of the clone and know what had happened between Hui, Desolate, and Devour. Hui, Devour, and Desolate were the absolute beginning creatures. Why did these three have to entangle with each other for billions of years? Why had Hui been dormant in the chaotic space basin? Why had Devour left the devouring clan in the sea domain of Nihility to fight against Desolate? Why had Desolate been divided into 5 pieces, the 5 ancient continents? There were so many secrets, so many knots he needed to untie. That was the only way he could deal with the complicated, knotty situation of Desolate territory. Chapter 1477, Goddess Mother. Chapter 1477, Goddess Mother. Ancient God Star Area. Countless stars sparkled like diamonds, decorating the dark outer space. Those stars twinkled magnificently as if they were the eyes peeking at the world. The ancient God Star Area today was peerlessly vast, created by dozens of star areas. There was no barrier between the star areas. The battleships, space shuttles, war chariots, and warriors moved around freely. The God Clan, the Tsunami Chamber of Commerce, the Broken Hall, and Heavenly River Temple, as well as dozens of strong forces now served a new goddess. This goddess was called Mother Goddess. Tianxia was the spokesman of Mother Goddess. The 4 great heavenly kings were her loyal henchmen, and the chiefs of the 12 families of the God Clan had become her god guards. In a corner of the star area, a silhouette appeared. He was baffled, watching the brand new star area as he looked lost and worried. He was God Lord Brian, who had commanded the God Clan and so many experts to kill Bloodthirsty. He had helped the God Clan thrive for 10,000 years. Today, Desolate territory had only 3 star areas: the Ancient God Star Area, the Ancient Demon Star Area, and the Grace Mainland Star Area. The 3 new star areas had been named after the 3 great ancient continents. The barriers between the 3 star areas were extremely thick and terrifying. The ordinary Immortal Realm experts couldn't even pierce through the barriers to move between the 3 star areas. Brian was at the peak of Immortal Realm, and he also had the dark energy. As time flew, he had transformed his incipient extent to approach the Territory Ancestor Realm. He was an entirely worthy expert. After 100 years, he had finally returned to the Ancient God Star Area, the ancestral land he had pushed to the peak of glory. But now, everything was beyond his reach. Today, the Ancient God Star Area was even more immensely vast than when the God Clan was at their peak of glory. The stars here were as many as the sand grains, where dwelled countless creatures and warriors. Unfortunately, he didn't have a place here. Lingering in the corner for a while, he had so many thoughts, but he didn't forget the reason why he was here. A beam of holy light extended from his body, and he then disappeared. Above the ancient God continent, Brian's body seemed like it was made of pieces of broken stars. It was his real body. He observed the ancient God continent, his face pale. He felt like a sharp knife had just stabbed into his head. It was a terrible pain to him. There was no member of the God Clan operating on the ancient God continent. The ancestral land of the God Clan, the land that gave birth to his clan, was now covered in layers of brilliant halos. People who didn't know the situation would think it was so magnificent, and the ancient God Clan was beautiful beyond comparison. However, his eyes could pierce through the layers of halos to see the situation of the continent. The massive snake body of absolute beginning creature Hui was coiling around the ancient God continent under the rainbow halos. The 12 snakeheads of Hui were digging in different areas on the ancient God continent. The heads dug into the caves, sea, and mountains, nibbling the continent. The ancient God continent was shrunk to 1/3. Many lakes and mountains were gone. Just like a horde of beasts having a feast, they were eating the ancient God continent, a part of Desolate. He observed the ancient God continent, his heart bitter cold like the winter. A flame of anger moved in his eyes as he looked at Hui nibbling at the continent. His soul felt cold and painful. It was the scream and cry of the origin in his soul. He understood clearly that the ancient God continent was the body of the origin, just like the flesh body of a creature. Today, the 12 heads of Hui were the leeches that were sucking blood and origin's energy of the ancient God continent. The mountains and rivers had disappeared as their energy, the basic energy of heaven and earth, was consumed. I won't let you satisfy yourself. I'm back, and I will take back everything that belongs to me. The God Lord muttered, his eyes bright. He turned into a dazzling sun with a scorching light and heat. The heating light emerged dazzlingly above the ancient god continent. The holy energy rippled, making many experts of the ancient god continent scream in fear. Air? He's back. He wants to attack Goddess Mother. He shouldn't return. The warriors scattered on the stars around the ancient god continent looked at the blazing flame, wearing different countenances. Some looked complicated. Some were unaffected. Some looked bitter and painful. Magically, the tsunami star and the heavenly fantasy star were around the ancient god continent. The host stars of the big forces were pulled here, surrounding the ancient god continent altogether. They protected the ancient god continent in the center like thousands of stars protecting the moon. Tianxia, inside the subterranean world on the tsunami star, opened his eyes, wearing a cold face. I didn't expect you to come back. Anyway, what can you do now? Goddess Mother is refining the ancient god continent. Nobody should disturb her. Seems like I have to get there. With that, he disappeared from the pond. In the next moment, Tianxian reappeared above the ancient god continent. Brian, how are you doing? Oh, you're fast. It took you only 100 years to come back. Hey, did you get anything from the absolute beginning vestige under the Sea of Annihilation? Goddess Mother sent her hope with you. We did hope that you would bring something magical back here. The God Lord was shocked. Tianxia, Hui had thrown Ming Hao and me to the absolute beginning vestige on the seabed of the Sea of Annihilation too. His face changed instantly. Mother Goddess wanted you and Ming Hao to bring the Power Upanishad symbol tower back here. I wonder if you succeeded, Tianxia remarked. He ignored the light power from the God Lord, which had turned the latter into a burning sun. With the dark energy, the fierce, holy light expanded invisibly toward the halos above the ancient god continent. He attempted to dissolve the barriers we had created. Brian wore a cold face, but didn't answer. At this moment, he finally knew that it wasn't an accident that he and Ming Hao were trapped in the absolute beginning vestige. Hui did that on purpose. Hui knew the Power Upanishad symbol tower was there. It hoped that Brian and Ming Hao could get the Power Upanishad symbol tower. After he got the Power Upanishad symbol tower, he would return to Desolate territory to find Hui and take revenge, as well as everything they had lost in Desolate territory. A light of realization flashed in Brian's head, causing him to discolor as he got the key. Hui needed the Power Upanishad symbol tower, but it couldn't go to the Sea of Annihilation seabed to get it. It threw him and Ming Hao there. It understood that he and Ming Hao would absolutely return to Desolate territory. If they got the Power Upanishad symbol tower, Hui would take it as soon as they came to Desolate territory. He finally got it now. Unfortunately, Goddess Mother had overestimated you guys. It's obvious that you failed. Tianxia gazed at him while shaking his head. You don't have that aura. You didn't return with the Power Upanishad symbol tower. It's really bad, you know? If you have failed, I'm sure Ming Hao has failed too. Pausing for a while, Tianxia snorted while shouting. Why are you still hiding? Show yourself and have fun with your old master. So many figures appeared around Brian. Unexpectedly, they were carefree, easygoing, light, and divine martial, the four heavenly kings. They had reached the third sky of a mortal realm and slightly understood the dark energy. At this moment, they had a fern-green snake mark on their foreheads. The great four heavenly kings looked unnatural. As soon as they appeared, they sighed, slightly bowing to greet Brian. Excellent. You're really excellent. Brian shook his head with a sneer. You helped the enemy and offered our ancestral land to Hui. Don't you care about our clan's future anymore? We just want to preserve our clan. Easygoing sighed emotionally. If we don't surrender, the God clan will be erased from his sea of stars. They will kill all of us. We don't have a choice. We failed you. Carefree and the others lowered their heads as well. However, it happened. I hope you will understand and forgive us. Easygoing looked awkward. If Goddess Mother faces problems, we will be annihilated altogether. While she's refining the ancient god continent, We must ensure that she's safe. So, I'm sorry. Boom. And just like that, Easygoing took action, causing many meteors to shoot out. They looked as if they were piercing through the river of time from the past to future, darting toward Brian's chest. Almost at the same time, Carefree took out a crescent moon, pouring the star energy into it. The crescent moon sparkled and looked partially visible, quietly flying toward the Godlord. Light and Divine Marshal didn't say anything. They looked bitter when they activated their horrible energy. Light had turned into hundreds of dazzling light beams, while Divine Marshal swelled up like a mountain, attacking the Godlord furiously. His loyal subordinates were attacking him today. Brian felt so sorrowful that he couldn't even talk. He didn't bring the Power Upanishad symbol tower. He doesn't have any value staying alive. For Heavenly Kings, kill him. After he's killed, the bond in your hearts will be lifted. That's how you can enter the Territory Ancestor realm. Tianxia enticed them. The 4 Heavenly Kings heard him and became fiercer. They did want to kill the Godlord at this moment. Just like what Tianxia had said, the Godlord was the Mara in their hearts. This former master was like a mountain or a thick layer of black clouds that had shadowed their hearts. As long as the Godlord was alive, they would always feel the threat. They thought that the Godlord would kill them one day. As long as this threat existed, they could never ease their minds. The Mara would bind their hearts and affect their breakthrough in the future. Today, the Godlord had to die. The death of this former master would end every fear in their souls. Inside the 7-colored halos, a massive snakehead appeared above the god Zenith, the peak of glory that belonged to the God Clan. This snakehead supported a magnificent throne where was seated an enchanting figure. She was Ziyao. Ziyao of today had a pair of 7-colored eyes. She was wearing an amethyst-purple dress which was draped loosely on the throne. She observed the battle between the Godlord and the 4 Heavenly Kings. It wasn't that she didn't have human emotions in her eyes like before. She looked as though she was very interested in watching the battle. Ziyao today seemed to have human emotions, and had become more like the Ziyao from the past. Chapter 1478, The Dark Abyss. Chapter 1478, The Dark Abyss understood her. The 4 Heavenly Kings, Light, Divine Marshal, Easygoing, and Carefree, had taken action altogether, surrounding Godlord Brian. They brutally showed him the power of the 3rd sky of a mortal realm that they had just attained not long ago. A cold crescent moon flew out, capable of piercing through the sky. The water of the heavenly river rose torrentially, swarming toward the Godlord. Heavenly King Light was hovering in the center of a sea of golden light. The Sea of Lights had so many mirrors that reflected the lights, making them even more dazzling. Each bunch of his light could crush an entire star. At this moment, so many bunches of light were aiming at the Godlord, covering him. At the same time, Heavenly King Easygoing and Divine Marshal looked like ferocious statues. They had become tall like the giant gods that could tear the sky and crush the space into pieces. Tianxia observed all this coldly. He didn't join this battle, his eyes sparkling maliciously. Meanwhile, the chiefs of the 12 families of the God Clan had arrived. They used to be the Godlord's henchmen, and now they emerged, looking at him with a complicated face. The chiefs of the 12 families and many experts at the incipient God realm all had a fern-green snake mark on their foreheads. It was the slave mark. Today, they were the slaves of absolute beginning creature Hui. They had to give Hui a wisp of their soul. As long as Hui flickered her mind, she could use the soul seal to kill them. If Hui were killed, the snake mark would explode, which would kill them altogether. Godlord Brian was fighting against the 4 Heavenly Kings. Seeing the familiar faces and the snake marks on their foreheads, he felt bitter and sorrowful. They were his fellows. Some of them were his later generation. They used to worship him as their ancestor, and he was their pride. But today, they were all Huey's slaves. They were here to kill him. The biggest pain in this world was seeing one's family try to kill oneself. To Brian, the wound in his soul this time would never fade away for the rest of his life. "Why are you still idle?" Tianxia snorted. Goddess Mother down there is watching you. Don't you think you should do something for her? The chiefs of the 12 families turned to look at the ancient god continent instinctively. They did see a charming figure on the god zenith. It felt like someone was watching them. They felt shivers run down their spines instantly. Goddess Mother's refining the ancient god continent. She can't be disturbed. Your life and soul are related to her. If she suffers any damage, you will be doomed as well. I think I've made myself clear. Tianxie said indifferently. The chiefs of the 12 families pondered for seconds, then gritted their teeth while hissing, "Guys, join hands. We must force him to retreat." Wrong. It's not force him to retreat. It's kill. Kill him. Tianxie corrected them coldly. If Brian isn't dead, he will come and bother Goddess Mother. You can't sleep well then either. So, he must die. Move. They stooped, their faces glum. The order was delivered. Many experts of the God Clan had joined hands with the 4 heavenly kings to attack Brian. Brian was facing the burning fire, sharp icicles, and lightning net alone. He was battling against several hundred warriors all by himself. The 4 heavenly kings were at the 3rd sky of a mortal realm and had the dark energy too. Now, they could use the soul to build barriers. Moreover, Brian had dedicatedly taught them, so they had mastered the cooperative techniques in fighting. When the 4 of them confronted one warrior, their combined power was incredible. Under the attack of the 4 heavenly kings, Brian felt greatly hurt. He was in the same situation as Bloodthirsty that year. So many experts were surrounding and attacking him. Compared to Bloodthirsty, his situation was worse, because he had just reached the peak of a mortal realm. That year, Bloodthirsty had entered the territory ancestor realm. Moreover, his own kind was attacking him, so he couldn't heartlessly assault anyone. His hands were tied. Turi. He spurted blood. Looking at a light lance in his chest, he shifted his cold look toward Heavenly King Light. Light was looking at him with an indifferent look. He didn't look ashamed. Only coldness stayed in his eyes. His line of sight swept over Divine Marshal, Easygoing, and the juniors at the incipient god realm from his clan. He found them all having cold eyes. They didn't consider him as their leader. They looked as though they hated the fact that they couldn't kill him earlier. Boom. Boom. Brian's heart felt colder and more desperate as all sorts of energy attacks shelled on him. Finally, he had recognized that the God Clan today wasn't his clan anymore, and the members of the clan weren't his fellows, his kind anymore. The more wounds he received, the number he got. The pain in his body was far behind the agony in his heart. Good. Very good. Brian faced the sky and laughed, looking disheveled. The precious gleam of indifference and pride had left him. He coldly glanced at Tianxie and then the charming, lazy figure underneath while shouting, "Today, I, Brian, pledge that I will not remember the old relationship. When I've entered the territory ancestor realm, I will come back." Then, he turned into a jet of light, flying toward the barriers ahead. Along his way, several incipient God Realm experts of the 12 families were crushed into pieces, falling. It was the first time he had taken action. This assault meant that he had totally woken up. He no longer treated them as his fellows or remembered the old solidarity. Brian broke the besiege and dashed away, seeing which, Tianxie was a little bewildered. His figure flashed when he crossed the 7-colored layer above the ancient god continent, kneeling in front of Ziyao's throne on the god zenith. With his head low to show respect, he asked for her direction. "Goddess Mother, what should we do to Brian?" "Send the 4 great heavenly kings to kill him. It's their business. They should end it themselves." Ziyao squinted while looking at Tianxie. Talking naturally, he didn't bring the Power Upanishad symbol tower. It also means Ming Hao couldn't either. You should pay attention to the ancient demon continent. We don't want Devour to rob the Power Upanishad symbol tower under our nose. "I understand," Tianxie replied. He then flew away from the ancient god continent, talking to the 4 great heavenly kings, order from Goddess Mother. "You are in charge of chasing and killing Brian. He's your Mara. If he doesn't die, you will never advance another step." The 4 great heavenly kings kept silent. After a while, they left without a word. The direction they left in was the one the God Lord had taken while breaking the besiege and running away. To break through further, they had made up their mind. They had to kill Brian. The ancient demon star area was also immensely vast. This new interstar area was composed of the God-blessed star area, the ancient demon continent of the immortal demon clan, and many other smaller star areas. Bloodthirsty's force managed this area as the warriors cultivating the 8 evil power Upanishad gathered here. It was a barren, isolated asteroid. Ming Hao, Xin He, Frederick, and Adele stopped there. They observed the ancient demon continent from a distance. Their faces looked so cold, as if they were about to frost. From a distance, the 2 massive planets looked like a pair of conjoined twins. Darkness was shadowing the ancient demon continent. Above the ancient demon continent, the dark abyss was like a massive black hole. It released the darkness, covering the entire ancient demon continent. A flow of Ming Hao's soul approached the place to see clearly. After 10,000 years, the ancient demon continent had developed vitality again. The greenery covered the entire place, filled with lush mountains and clear lakes. But at this moment, the thick, inky black clouds were like a massive beast opening its mouth to swallow the ancient demon continent. Billions of twinkling starlight dots were moving toward the dark abyss. Along the way, it looked like the transition from spring to winter. Plants and grass withered and died. Rivers were droughty. Insects and fish died everywhere. It was a scene of despair and desolation. If this continent were a human, his vitality was being drawn away little by little. The ancient demon continent was heading toward death, to its extinction. At the same time, its death would nourish the dark abyss. Deep inside the dark abyss was the endless blood sea which had the islands of Bloodthirsty's force. At this moment, the dark abyss was closed. Ming Hao's soul couldn't explore further. He retrieved his soul consciousness and then told the others what he had explored. Devour swallowing the ancient demon continent. He's not free to attack the God-blessed mainland yet. The God-blessed mainland is sealed. Our fellows of the Imperial Dark Tribe have moved out. I think our homeland's temporarily safe. Should we go to the Bloodsea Forbidden Land? Asked Xin He. It's Devour's body. He has awakened now. If we go there, we don't know what could happen. Adele hesitated. Devour should be very terrifying. Our Master Ha attacked it and put it into dormancy. It means that the absolute beginning creatures aren't invincible. Ming Hao shook his head. He has woken up, and he's swallowing the ancient demon continent. During this process, I think it doesn't have the extra power to care about us. So, I think we don't need to face it directly. We just need to face Wetterson. Listening to him, Adele and the others nodded as they thought that it was logical. They discussed for a while, and then decided to enter the dark abyss. Several days later, they arrived at the dark abyss. Looking at the jet-black whirlpool, they felt a little helpless. In the past, they could get in and out there easily, but now, they didn't know how to enter. Eventually, they recognized that dark abyss was part of Devour, and it was almost impossible to sneak in without alerting it. While they were hesitant, countless dark clouds churned and flew out of the dark abyss. Wetterson appeared first. His eyes were strange as he smiled oddly, his voice dark and sorrowful. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Randolph, Conley, and Split, the warriors who had submitted to Ming Hao, Xin He, and Frederick, gathered by Wetterson. They looked at Xin He and Ming Hao with dark faces and cold eyes. There were many strangers in this group, but Ming Hao winced when his eyes raked through them. Those strange faces were the secret pieces of chess he had arranged 10,000 years ago. He had given them the 8 evil power Upanishads, making them hide in different star areas to work for him. They were the elites of his soul control force. Today, they had followed Wetterson. All of them had a small mark on their foreheads. It was a black hole, Devour's private crest. It was clear that all of them had followed Devour and had now become Wetterson's loyal warriors. Chapter 1479, Link Up the Territories. Chapter 1479, Link Up the Territories. After all, who are you? Ming Hao looked at Wetterson, his face turning dark. He knew that Wetterson would have a strong support if he dared to come here. Hence, he discreetly assessed the latter, causing his visage to change. Wetterson had a brutal, terrifying aura that was thick to the point of almost materializing. It seemed like he had killed billions of creatures. His murderous aura was like a long river that could frighten even Ming Hao's soul. Wetterson had an extremely evil power which emitted an aura that could vaguely suppress Ming Hao's soul control power Upanishad. The latter couldn't sense his current realm. And the warriors surrounding him all had a profound realm. Apparently, they had made a clear breakthrough, harvesting major benefits after deciding to follow Wetterson. Sure Yin didn't tell you anything? Wetterson laughed evilly. Sure Yin came to the Sea of Annihilation. He met the devouring clan members and got the power Upanishad symbol tower. He killed Gon Fu and Chiemo of our clan. Who am I, you say? Sure Yan's right. You're the young master something of the devouring clan. Ming Hao looked shocked as he finally confirmed the truth. Suddenly, he changed his face while shouting. How did you know Sure Yin got the power Upanishad symbol tower? How did you know we killed Gon Fu and Chiemo? You did that. Wetterson's eyes were so cold. You can't escape death as you have killed my fellows. You think you could hide on returning to Desolate territory? I am Pu Tai, young chief of the devouring clan. When I was really young, my father had given me the power Upanishad to contact our ancestor and find the lost inheritance. Do you know how much the devouring clan had to pay? The one calling himself Pu Tai had the corners of his mouth twitched. To contact the ancestor, my clan had sacrificed millions of fellows. We used their blood to create the sacrificial altar, and even the territory ancestors of our clan had to damage themselves to contact the ancestor. To enter Desolate territory and cooperate with our ancestors' plan, I, the young chief, had to detonate myself and come here with only the soul. I had stayed inside that ring for hundreds of years to awaken our ancestor. For the eternal power of the devouring clan, we have had sacrificed too much. Pu Tai's eyes raked through Ming Hao, Xin He, and the others. 10,000 years ago, Bloodthirsty, the traitor, had betrayed our ancestor. He had rebelled, ambushed, and sealed our ancestor while he was fighting against Desolate and got hurt. His devouring power Upanishad and the 8 great evil power Upanishads were bestowed by my ancestor. He had taken things that belonged to our ancestor to grow you and create Bloodthirsty's force. Today, I, Pu Tai, will inherit everything that belongs to us. Everything's predestined. The more he talked, the more furious Pu Tai got. Toward the end, he was almost frantic. It's your ancestor who made use of him first. He wanted to use him to destroy Desolate and refine it. He didn't come with a good will. As he failed, whom should he blame? Ming Hao signaled Xian He and the others to keep silent. He wanted to get some more information or even secrets from Pu Tai. Our ancestor had given him the inheritance. Without our ancestor, he wouldn't have had such intimidating abilities, and you wouldn't have the bloodthirsty force, let alone your power. If you want to calculate, the bloodthirsty force is a branch of our devouring clan with the power Upanishads from our ancestor. You're our servants, because the power Upanishads you got were from our clan. Pu Tai bellowed. What the heck is he talking about? Xin He sneered. Arrogant and ignorant. Frederick snorted. Bloodthirsty's inheritance was bestowed by my ancestor. Now, my ancestor has awakened and is eating the ancient demon continent. The members of the bloodthirsty force with the blood mark now have another mark. The bloodthirsty force is now under my command. After our ancestor has refined the ancient demon continent and the god-blessed mainland, we will surpass all the races in the sea domain of nihility. We will become the race that tops and leads the sea of stars forever. Pu Tai laughed. In your dream, dummy. Ming Hao was impatient when the other didn't provide a lot of useful information. When Devour's refining the ancient demon continent, it can't join the battle. Do you think you can stop us from breaking this? Haha. Pu Tai laughed like crazy while pointing at Ming Hao. You're only at the immortal realm. You're strong in Desolate territory, but in the sea domain of nihility, What do you think you are? Putai said as his face turned dark. So, you don't know how I know all the things that happened in the sea domain of nihility and the incidents under the sea of annihilation? Ming Hao was perplexed, but in the next moment, he was shaken hard as he screamed. You've connected the sea domain of nihility? You're smart. A cold voice arose from a dark abyss, and a black cluster of clouds flew toward Putai. A senile fellow of the devouring clan appeared. He was bony with eyes like snakes, and behind him was the endless darkness. As soon as he emerged, the entire light around him was devoured. Young chief, the old man nodded at Putai. You've been truly laborious. For the great plan of our race, you've sacrificed a lot. Yeah, it's lucky that we've almost got it. Ming Hao felt shivers running down his spine. He looked at the old man and finally understood the situation. Run. Now. Ming Hao flipped his hand, opening a light door as his voice thundered. He's at the territory ancestor realm. Go back to the Grace mainland and find Shi Yin. Countless shadows of Ming Hao forced Adele and Audrey into the door. Almost at the same time, Ming Hao bravely dashed toward the devouring clan old man. He had sobered now. Being the chief of Soul Control Force, he had been in the Blood Sea Forbidden Land for 10,000 years. He knew that the central island was the magical station that could pierce through layers of spaces. However, it needed the blood vein ring and Bloodthirsty's heir to activate. Thus, that sacrificial altar had always been sealed. But now, as Putai got Wetterson's body, which had the aura of Bloodthirsty's remains, and the ring's spirit, he also had obtained the devouring power Upanishad. As he could wake up devour, he had controlled everything in the Blood Sea Forbidden Land, which meant he could open the sacrificial altar. Putai knew about the incidents in the Sea of Annihilation. It proved that the sacrificial altar had been opened, and also that this area had been connected to the devouring clan's territory in the Sea of Annihilation. So, it wasn't strange that the experts of the devouring clan could come here. As it was one of the 7 great clans of the sea domain of nihility, the devouring clan had territory ancestor realm experts. In desolate territory, territory ancestors were invincible existences. As soon as he saw the bony old man, Ming Hao got it. He knew if he didn't make up his mind quickly, everybody would be killed. Thus, he decided to make time for Audrey and the others to return to the Grace mainland and find Shi Yin without a bit of hesitation. Shi Yin was at the second sky of a mortal realm, with so many secrets and supernatural powers. The Grace mainland was his world. In that world, he would be way more intimidating. Audrey and Adele could get rid of the devouring clan and Putai as long as they got there. In just a blink of an eye, Ming Hao had made a plan. He resolutely tore the space and threw Audrey's team together with Xian He and Frederick through the light door. He had used the dark energy to create his strongest attack. While he was moving toward the devouring clan old man, a dark abyss arose above his head. It was his incipient extent, which looked like the netherworld of 9 Serenity, with many ghosts, as well as brutal and resentful souls. Those souls rolled like waves toward the old man. Just a short step away from the territory ancestor realm, a hidden danger. We must eliminate him soon. The eyes of the old man flared strangely as he focused on Ming Hao, not minding that Xian He and Frederick had left. In his mind, Xian He and the others were at only the immortal realm and didn't have the dark energy. It would take a lot more time for them to reach the territory ancestor realm. It meant they couldn't cause any threat or effect to the devouring clan in the future. So, he let them escape, because he was confident that he could chase after them later. He could give them some time to live. But he could not give Ming Hao any time. If Ming Hao had more time, he could break through to the territory ancestor realm. And once he reached the territory ancestor realm, Ming Hao would become a true threat to the devouring clan. He would even affect their ancestors' refining process due to his terrifyingly destructive power. The endless darkness expanded from the old man, and all of the light was swallowed by it. Slowly, the entire area didn't have a single beam of light left. The warriors here couldn't see anything else, not even their own fingers. Their soul consciousness couldn't sense anything either. This kind of darkness didn't affect just the vision, but also the soul. It was the real power of the dark power Upanishad. Ming Hao and his incipient extent disappeared into the darkness, leaving behind nothing. There was no sound or energy fluctuation. No one knew what had happened. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Many figures zoomed over from the horizon of the Grace mainland, landing grumblingly. They were Xian He, Frederick, Audrey, and Adele. They landed on the immortal island while thundering, "Shi Yin, Shi Yin, Shi Yin." Shi Yin was sitting inside a gorge behind the immortal island like a rock, his face nonchalant. He had sat there for a long time. Blood Devil, Yang Tian Emperor, and the others were sitting around him. Seeing him absorbed into his thought, they began to cultivate as well. After the Godlord and Ming Hao had left for several days, someone was calling Shi Yin with a voice the entire Grace mainland could hear. Everybody was surprised, and then saw Xian He, Frederick, and Audrey crazily flying toward the immortal island. Ming Hao's in trouble. Xian He turned into a bloodlight, standing in front of Shi Yin and shouting, "The territory ancestor realm expert of the devouring clan has come to Desolate territory. Ming Hao's captured in the dark abyss. He's in danger. Shi Yin, please save my uncle. I'm begging you," cried Adele. "You're the new master of Bloodthirsty. You're responsible for us. You must fight for us." Frederick shouted all of a sudden. Chapter 1480, Ignite. Chapter 1480, Ignite. Xian He, Frederick, and the others had returned from the ancient demon continent. They were extremely restless, as if they had a flame burning their hearts. They tried to find Shi Yin everywhere on the immortal island, their calls reverberating in the entire mainland. Inside the gorge behind the immortal island, Shi Yin closed his eyes, his face nonchalant as if he was absorbed in his comprehension process. Yang Tian Emperor and Blood Devil wore a cold face, stopping Xian He. He's comprehending his power. He needs quietness. What has happened? Yang Tian Emperor asked in a low voice. Ming Hao's in danger in the ancient demon continent. A territory ancestor of the devouring clan has captured him. I'm afraid he can't escape. Xian He rarely looked this panicked. Ming Hao used space energy to open a passage to bring us back here. But he can't escape. He simply explained the situation. Yang Tian Emperor discolored. Territory ancestor realm? Bloodthirsty's level? The surrounding warriors felt chilled when they heard that. They turned to look at Xian He with a malicious thought. Territory ancestor? What can Shi Yin do if he goes there? Are you telling him this to get him killed? Xia Xian Yan's bright eyes turned cold. It's your trouble. Solve it yourself. Swoosh, swoosh. A lightning-like figure conjured in the void. It was De Carlos. He was bewildered, asking, "Xian He, you're here too?" He then turned to Shi Yin. "Right then, I got something to tell you. The 4 heavenly kings are after Godlord Brian. The 4 heavenly kings are all at the 3rd sky of Immortal Realm. After they followed Hui and Tian Xie, they obtained the dark energy. As they've joined hands, Brian's situation isn't really good." Pausing for a while, he asked, "Do you want to get involved in this?" Get involved? How? Adele's beautiful face had an ash-gray shadow, her eyes gloomy. "My brother, Ming Hao's trapped by a territory ancestor from the devouring clan. His situation isn't good either. Who cares about Godlord Brian? The 4 heavenly kings are after the Godlord?" Yang Tian Emperor and Blood Devil had a twinge in their nerves. The series of incidents had baffled them. They suddenly recognized that after Shi Yan's team had returned, the Desolate territory was now an ignited dynamite. It would go off soon. The Godlord was chased by the 4 heavenly kings, and Ming Hao was confined by the territory ancestor of Devouring Clan. As soon as the 2 peerless experts of Desolate territory returned, they had been sunk deeply in trouble. What should they do? They followed their instincts to Immortal Island. Deep in their hearts, they had all laid their hopes on Shi Yin. After a short time spent in the sea domain of nihility, Shi Yin had reached the 2nd sky of Immortal Realm. This mysterious young man had become their last resort. Shi Yin had stood quietly in the gorge for a long time, and suddenly opened his eyes. He now had a long, archaic aura, as if he had slumbered for tens of thousands of years. After a flash, he came over to Xian He and DeCarlos, asking, "Tell me the situation one more time." Xian He and DeCarlos told him about the situation of Ming Hao and the Godlord in detail. Can't believe the Devouring clan is connected to Desolate territory and the incident on the seabed of the Sea of Annihilation. They know about the Power Upanishad symbol tower too. It's not good. After listening to the others, Shi Yin nodded and then quieted down. The other didn't dare to disturb him, waiting for his opinion in silence. Hui, Tianxie, and the four heavenly kings were the peerless characters in the ancient God Star area now. Currently, they weren't strong enough to resist such experts. The territory ancestor of the Devouring clan, Pu Tai, and Devour in the ancient Demon Star area were even fiercer. Unless Shi Yin broke through to the territory ancestor realm, they didn't know what method they could use to solve this problem. They looked at Shi Yin with hope and insecurity. After a while, Shi Yin's face emitted a halo that chilled people. With a sharp look in his eyes, he said, "Desolate territory today is out of our control. It's not something we can manage anymore. The absolute beginning creatures Hui and Devour have ruled two territories, added with the territory ancestor of the Devouring clan. If so, let the entire desolate territory boil." Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Rays of strange, magical light weaved in his eyes, congregating in one spot. All of a sudden, a light door appeared in front of his chest. It was a space door that ran directly to the territory entrance in the space basin. "What do you mean?" DeCarlos looked baffled. "All the races in the sea domain of nihility are searching for desolate territory and me. They're interested in the absolute beginning creature Desolate. I guess they are interested in Hui and Devour too. As the Devouring clan has come, we should open the entrance to the Desolate territory so that more experts of the sea domain of nihility can come." Shi Yin said crazily. "Are you crazy? You're crazy. Once the experts of the sea domain of nihility come to Desolate territory, the entire territory can't live in peace. Who can stop those devils?" Xian He, Frederick, and Audrey screamed, feeling scared and chilled. Shi Yan's madness had frightened them. "Isn't it bad enough now?" Shi Yan's voice was harsh. "Hui and Devour are nibbling and eroding Desolate's parts. They're attacking Desolate, and Desolate doesn't have the power to resist. Today, the territory ancestor of the Devouring clan has arrived. If we don't stir up some changes, we will die altogether once they have finished off Desolate. What difference would there be if we let the other experts come? Would the worst consequences be different?" Stooping to see the Grace mainland underneath, his eyes turned strange. Perhaps it also wants some earth-shaking change to overturn this bad situation. Without more explanation, Shi Yin flashed, swaying through the light door. The light door closed slowly. Shi Yin reappeared in the chaotic space basin. After a gleam, he entered the Desolate territory's entrance precisely, as if he had done it before. Jumping into it, the terrifying water pressure slapped him. He urged the Power Upanishad, following the way Bloodthirsty had taken a long, long time ago to move deeper into the Sea of Annihilation's seabed. The water pressure became more horrible. After a long time, he was shaken as he recognized that he had actually entered the Sea of Annihilation's seabed. A thought popped up in his head. He teleported and came to the broken star field where he had collected the Little Bear Constellation. He rubbed some rocks and became surprised. Those broken stars had a powerful soul energy fluctuation. The soul energy congregated, creating many images. Shi Yin saw Meiji when she was dormant. Eventually, the image changed into a little figure. It was a little girl who talked like an old woman. "This child, Meiji, I brought her home. She's all right. She's going to be the next territory ancestor of the Phantom Clan. If you want to contact the Phantom Clan, you can come to any base of the Phantom Clan to talk. And Hero from the White Bone Clan also wants to find you. He doesn't mean harm." This visual soul message had been here for dozens of years, waiting for only him. Those images were animated. Shi Yin rubbed the stone, his face filled with surprise. How fierce was the warrior who could leave a visual message that hadn't faded for dozens of years like that? He immediately recognized that it was the superb expert of the Phantom Clan. Yin was surprised when the other didn't seem to mean harm. It seemed she just wanted to talk to him. Yin was more amazed when she mentioned Hero of the Whitebone Clan. Pondering for a while, he disguised and moved forward. He came to the surface of the sea domain of Nihility, heading to a city to gather information he had missed during dozens of years. The members of the Whitebone clan were trying hard to find the expert with life power Upanishad to wake up their two precursors. That granny of the Phantom clan had slaughtered and forced Feral and Neptune to run away, retracting their heads. He got the directions shortly and found the base the Phantom clan had re-established in the Sea of Annihilation. Through the Phantom clan, he also contacted the Whitebone clan, giving them the coordinates of the Desolate Territory's entrance. The Phantom clan's Fairyland headquarters. Mei Ji was refining her territory. Today, her makings were more powerful and elegant than in the past. She had finally reached the Territory Ancestor realm and become an important expert of the Phantom clan. She was in charge of collecting, sorting, and distributing intelligence for the Phantom clan. She had always paid attention to the base in the Sea of Annihilation. Today, while she was playing with a crystal ball, flows of news came through it. A piece of news emerged on her palm, and her sexy body shook hard. Her body flashed, and she appeared in the holy land of the Phantom clan. She found the little girl, talking respectfully and excitedly. "Granny, it's Yin." He sent the news and location of Desolate Territory. He said that Desolate Territory now has 2 absolute beginning creatures, and the Territory Ancestor of the Devouring Clan has come using a secret technique. The little girl changed her face, her eyes emitting a bright light. "Excellent. Very excellent. Summon the hotshots. You come with me to the Sea of Annihilation." Holy Land, Whitebone Clan. Inside an imposing Whitebone mountain, Hero was listening to a member of his clan. After a while, he nodded, his eyes shooting a divine light. "The Phantom clan's intelligence can't be wrong. We owe the Phantom clan this time. As Yin has proactively sent the message, I think he has got good feelings for our Whitebone clan." "What's going on?" a clansman with a crystal-clear skeleton asked. Yin, the one with the Power Upanishad symbol tower, sent the news and said that he wanted to use the Life Power Upanishad to help us. He also said that Desolate Territory now has 3 absolute beginning creatures, and even the Territory Ancestor of the Devouring Clan. "He gave the precise coordinates and asked us to come find him there," said Hero. The man got his eyes brightened, talking resolutely. "Is it true?" "Absolutely." "Then, I'm going with you. Call my cousin. We will take his parents to Desolate Territory together. This time, we have to wake them up in Desolate Territory. They are our biggest assets." "Certainly." Chapter 1481. Gather by the Territory Entrance. Chapter 1481. Gather by the Territory Entrance. In an isolated asteroid area southwest of the Sea of Annihilation, lightning moved around like snakes. Those asteroids had burning electricity running through them as the electric arc was crawling on them. The lead gray clouds covered the entire area like an ugly gray cloth which interrupted the vision a lot. Inside an ash-gray, shield-shaped asteroid, Emperor Sea Shark and Shun Ren were sitting cross-legged in a spacious room. Their breathing was steady as they were cultivating. Jingle, jingle. The clear bells arose from a ring on Shun Ren's finger. He woke up from his cultivation, his eyes baffled. An electric beam from his finger entered the ring. In the next second, a message ran into his brain. The puzzled countenance was swept away from Shun Ren's face. He was shaken, and a magical light shot out of his eyes. "Our brothers in the Sea of Annihilation have sent me a strange news." Emperor Sea Shark had to pause his cultivation, his face bitter when he asked, "Something's wrong? Are they all right?" "Before we left, we had told them to not raise the dispute with anybody during this time, hadn't we?" Dozens of years ago, Emperor Sea Shark had supported Yin on the Sea of Annihilation seabed. He had offended the 5 clans and attacked Neptune and Feral. Afterward, the 5 clans were enraged. Emperor Sea Shark knew that it would be a lot of troubles if he continued to stay in the Sea of Annihilation. Begrudgingly, he and Shanren left alone, coming to this dangerous area to cultivate ascetically in the hope of cultivating to the next minor realm, which would ease out the threat from the 5 clans. Emperor Sea Shark and Shanren were the clansmen of the Sea Clan. They were forced to leave the Sea of Annihilation and cultivate here. To them, it wasn't easy to adapt to the environment. They didn't contact the members on the Sea of Annihilation's seabed because they were afraid of disclosing their whereabouts. They had strictly asked their subordinates to not contact them unless there was something they couldn't handle. When Shanren received the news, Emperor Sea Shark instinctively thought that his fellows in the Sea of Annihilation hadn't listened to him and caused some trouble. Emperor Sea Shark was greatly disappointed. He was upset because his fellows didn't understand that they should hide during this course. He and Shanren weren't there, so they must be gingerly. They should have done everything with great caution. If the others don't provoke them, the children would listen well. Shanren's eyes carried sadness. He knew those members of the Sea Clan. After he and Emperor Sea Shark had left, they had to pass a lot of benefits. The forces that had a grudge against Emperor Sea Shark now got the secret support from the 5 clans. They began to attack the Sea Clan warriors. Currently, the Sea Clan warriors had to survive in helter-skelter. They had to move continually. If the seabed of the Sea of Annihilation weren't immense, their fellows couldn't have lived anymore. Shinra knew everything. The cause of everything was that he and Emperor Sea Shark had chosen Shi Yan's side at the critical moment. They had enraged the 5 clans, giving them a purple face in wrath. What happened? Emperor Sea Shark sighed. To be exact, it's our mistake. If we stayed in the seabed, who would dare to attack them? Anyway, I don't regret it. If our benefactor hadn't trained me, we wouldn't have today's Emperor Sea Shark. I would have died already. We owed him. Right? We owed him. Shinra nodded. In the next second, his eyes brightened. My soldier sent the news saying that a guy came to them and told them the coordinates of an entrance territory. He asked you and me to go there and check. It's the territory entrance to Desolate territory. Desolate territory's entrance? Emperor Sea Shark was shocked. He pulled a stern face. How could it be? The 7 clans are trying their best to find Desolate territory's entrance. No one got anything. Who's kind enough to tell us about the entrance to Desolate territory? How could he find it? Because he's from Desolate territory, Shunren smiled. He's Shi Yan. Emperor Sea Shark shook hard. Are you sure? It's him. He had summoned the Power Upanishad symbol tower in front of our fellows. He said that he meant no harm. He wanted us to go to Desolate territory, as he wanted to talk to us about something, said Shinren. Emperor Sea Shark pondered for a few seconds, then nodded resolutely. We're going back to the Sea of Annihilation. Deep under the Sea of Annihilation was a mysterious, fatal area. This area had terrifying water pressure, and the seawater had a strange, greenish-gray hue. Hundreds of whirlpools appeared in this area like strange, open mouths, where was hidden a passage to the unknown outer space. Many warriors of the Sea of Annihilation knew this area. Some superb experts had come here to explore, going into those whirlpools. However, all of them disappeared. During tens of thousands of years, some territory ancestor realm experts had gone into those whirlpools as well. But none of them had returned to the sea domain of nihility. Some had entered a true void. They had to return with nothing but their damaged cultivation. Hundreds of whirlpools looked like strange flowers blooming in this area. Since many people had gone missing here, this area became a forbidden place. No one had found any trace of treasures here. After a long time, no one had come here to explore anymore, making the place desolate and barren. Today, a skull slowly headed toward the strange whirlpools. At first, it was tiny. As it zoomed over, the skull became massive. Swoosh! The skull stopped eventually. Surprisingly, it was the Skull Island of the White Bone Clan. After the Skull Island had anchored, some members of the White Bone Clan crawled out of the empty sockets. Hero was the leader accompanied by Gay, another territory ancestor of the White Bone Clan. Around 10 more experts followed them on this trip. Inside the skull lay the coffins of the little skeleton's parents. Hero and Gay looked at so many whirlpools, their countenances surprised. Turns out it's here. No wonder why we couldn't find it. Although we know one of these vortexes is the entrance, we don't know which one it is. So, how can we dare to jump in? Asked Gay. An immortal realm expert of our Whitebone clan used to come here to explore. But he never came back, said Hero. Should we jump in now? The little skeleton asked, his eyes longing, sure Yan's at the second sky of immortal realm. He has the life absolute beginning original symbol, so he can wake up my parents, right? It depends on the supernatural ability the life absolute beginning original symbol had given him. But if he has called us, he should be certain. Gay explained. Hearing him, the little skeleton was cheered up, gently nodding at him. We're a little early. We should wait for the Phantom Clan. Monesi told me to wait if we arrived earlier. She would be slower than us because the Phantom Clan's far from here, said Hero. Okay. The Whitebone clan then waited in silence. After a while, a massive crystal shuttle that was like a hidden submarine arrived. It was invisible along the way, so it had startled many members of the Whitebone clan when it suddenly appeared by their Skull Island. Hero calmed them down as they knew it was from the Phantom clan. The crystal shuttle stopped, and a little girl appeared. Following her was Meiji, the expert with a peerless glamour. Around 10 beautiful people of the Phantom clan walked behind them. They were all wearing beautiful clothes, which outlined their gorgeous appearance and outstanding makings. All of them stood respectfully behind the little girl. Montesi, you're faster than I thought. Hero let his team leave the Skull Island and move the coffins together. Then, he rose one hand, grabbing the void. The Skull Island shrank and became a small white dot, which he put into his glabella. The Phantom Clan group walked out of the shuttle. The little girl chuckled and opened her mouth as if she was eating fruits. She swallowed the massive crystal shuttle and then said, We were a little hurried. We accelerated, as we were afraid of getting exposed. It's not good to linger here. As we don't want to be exposed, shall we get in there? Asked Hero. Montesi's childish face was stern. What if he gave us wrong coordinates, which is actually a death trap? Aren't you afraid? Ah, you Whitebone clan don't understand dark plans. If Sure Yin wants to harm you, you will enter his trap eventually. Without waiting for Hero's reply, Montesi signaled a man behind, ordering him, You get in there and scout. She rose her hand, pointing at a whirlpool in the center. The handsome Phantom Man didn't say anything, heading toward the whirlpool. Montesi and Hero quieted down, waiting for the result. After a while, Montesi and Hero shouted at the same time, Who is that? They looked in the same direction, their eyes cold. It looked like they would turn into savage beasts in the next moment to tear anyone who dared to come here into pieces. Two silhouettes appeared. Shan Rian had a stern face, but his soul shivered and he became gingerly. Emperor Sea Shark was at the territory Ancestor Realm too. He was calmer under the gaze and threat from Hero and Montesi. He bowed to them from a distance, greeting loudly. Greetings, Precursor Montesi, Precursor Hero, Emperor Sea Shark. Meiji screamed in surprise. Why are you here? Emperor Sea Shark thought for a while and soon got the situation, so he didn't want to conceal. Sure Yin sent me a message and asked me to come. Seems like I'm not the only one invited. That kid has remembered the old favors. He remembers you. He's not bad. Hearing him, Montesi nodded. If Sure Yin had asked you to come, we will include you. But, do you know what's awaiting us in Desolate territory? What? Emperor Sea Shark didn't really know the situation. 3 absolute beginning creatures. We don't know how strong they are. Plus, there is the territory Ancestor Realm expert of the Devouring Clan. There are many uncertain factors. Are you sure you're in? Montesi asked with a frown. Emperor Sea Shark's mind was shaken, frightened because of her words. He only received the message from Sure Yin, asking him to come here. He didn't know how complicated Desolate territory's situation was. It made him hesitant. Think carefully, Montesi added. However, at this moment, the good-looking man who had jumped into the whirlpool as asked returned, nodding with a happy face. It's true. It's the territory entrance. No problem. Let's go. Montesi smiled, waving her hand. She brought the members of the Phantom Clan, plunging bravely into the vortex. Chapter 1482, Reach an Agreement. Chapter 1482, Reach an Agreement Unearthed. Hero and the members of the White Bone clan also dove into the whirlpool, disappearing together with Montesi and Meiji. Shinrin wore a heavy countenance, hesitating. If Montesi's correct, once we enter Desolate territory, our lives will be threatened. The absolute beginning creatures aren't easy to deal with, especially with the true expert of the Devouring clan. Have you thought it over? Hovering in front of hundreds of vortexes, Emperor Sea Shark looked worried and pensive. After a while, he said resolutely, "Let's take risks for once." "All right." Shinrin didn't sound hesitant anymore, and then they both plunged into the vortex. After a while, a few shadows appeared. Hero, Montesi, and the others appeared above the river Ming Hao and Xian he used to stop by in the space outside Desolate territory. As soon as they came, they released the soul consciousness to search. Immediately, they found Shi Yin standing like a lance by the territory entrance. Shi Yin. Meiji couldn't help but scream. Her beautiful face looked happy. If Montesi and Hero weren't here, she would have jumped into his embrace. Time had flown like a long river. Dozens of years had passed as quickly as the blink of an eye. Meiji had become sexier. She was like a flower blooming to its very finest. Her bright eyes looked like they contained water, along with a passion that could melt even the hardest hearts in men. Her red robe worshipped her voluptuous, perfect contours. The red hue of her lips could arouse any man and boil his blood. "You've finally entered the territory ancestor realm," Shi Yin beamed at her, then nodded to greet Montesi and Hero. His eyes brightened when he saw the little skeleton, asking smilingly, "Oh, you're here too? Shi Yin, can you save my parents?" The members of the White Bone clan carried two coffins, standing behind the little skeleton. His dormant parents were inside the coffins. "If I have enough energy, I think it'll be no problem. Don't worry. As long as I am involved in a bloody battle that provides me with energy, I can wake them up," Shi Yin confirmed. "The absolute beginning original symbol I got from the Power Upanishad symbol tower is a magical, supernatural ability of Life Power Upanishads. It is specialized for your parents' case." The two territory ancestors of the White Bone clan were Hero and Gay, who had their eyes brightened at this moment. With what Shi Yin had just told them, this trip was already valuable. "Do you know that all the experts in the Sea of Annihilation are searching for you in the entrance to Desolate territory?" Although Montesi looked as though she was just 11 or 12 years old, her eyes were deep and archaic. "After you took a walk around the Sea of Annihilation, you've boiled up the entire place. You kid, you dare to play hard." "I don't dare." Shi Yin looked sour. "I almost died, but I was lucky. As long as I'm alive, I always have hope." "Good mentality." Montesi smiled in surprise. "We should talk about the conditions first." Shi Yin didn't babble more. He pulled himself together, looking at Hero and Gay. "I can wake them up, and I also have the Power Upanishad symbol tower. I can promise you that if you get the materials to refine the absolute beginning original symbol, I will help you refine one." Hero and Gay exchanged looks and then nodded happily. They were waiting for him to explain his conditions. "The same way, I can also refine the absolute beginning original symbol for the Phantom clan. In Desolate territory, I'm sort of a host. I can't tell you the details in a preliminary plan." Shi Yin turned to Montesi while speaking. "My conditions are simple. The two absolute beginning creatures, Hui and Devour, haven't recovered from their serious damage yet. We will join hands and attack them. We need to discuss the results. I hope you won't destroy the structure of Desolate territory. Don't think that Desolate territory is your backyard and invade it. I want you to keep everything here in its normal conditions. You want us to destroy or shoot things that don't belong to Desolate territory out of the place. Is that what you want?" Montesi intervened. "You can say that." Shi Yin didn't conceal anything. "I'm from Desolate territory, and my family and friends live here. I don't want anything bad to happen to them." "How about Desolate?" Hero asked in a low-pitched voice. "He's the owner of Desolate territory, and his parts are separated. What should we do?" "Desolate. Let me handle him. It's one of the conditions," Shi Yin said resolutely. What do you think? Montesi rubbed her chin, asking Hero. There are two absolute beginning creatures. It's easy to share between the two clans, isn't it? I know the White Bone clan has something with Devour, so I guess you guys are interested in Devour, right? Devour's damaged badly. Gay and I can try to kill and then refine him. I just hope that the territory ancestor of the devouring clan here isn't Edgar. If Edgar's here, it'll be more troublesome, Hero said. So, is Edgar really powerful? Shi Yin was surprised. He had been in the Sea of Annihilation for a while, so he knew that Edgar was the strongest expert of the devouring clan, one of their 10 great territory ancestors. Together with Montesi and Hero, he was famous for his boldness. However, as Shi Yin had heard that the devouring clan didn't have complete power Upanishads, he assumed that Edgar wasn't really fierce because he didn't cultivate the devouring power Upanishad. Yeah, he's really powerful. The eyes on Hero's jade-like face were sparkling like gemstones. I used to fight against him. I'm not sure I can defeat him, as we are almost at the same level. If he comes, it'll be really tough to deal with. How about you and I joining hands? Montesi asked. It's no problem then, replied Hero. Do you agree with my conditions? If yes, we can do the prep work now. If not, then never mind. Shi Yin urged. Certainly yes. Sure thing. We should talk somewhere else. Shi Yin used his space power Upanishad to tear space here and connect to the Grace mainland. Everybody then wormed through the space slit like a shuttle, coming directly to the Immortal Island on the Grace mainland. As soon as they came to the Immortal Island, Hero and Montesi were amazed. Thick heaven and earth energy. This continent's really rare. It's amazing to cultivate power Upanishads here, worth a clone of Desolate. Montesi appraised. On the Immortal Island, DeCarlos, Xia Xian Yin, Frederick, Audrey, and Blood Devil were waiting for him restlessly. Seeing Shi Yin returning with a group of people, everybody was shaken hard. What's the current situation? Is Minghao still alive? Shi Yin asked as soon as he returned. Minghao cultivated soul control power Upanishad and had thousands of souls. The warriors cultivating this soul control power Upanishad, among the 8 great evil power Upanishads, were really hard to kill. Moreover, Minghao had the dark energy. Shi Yin didn't think he would be killed so soon. Can't contact him. Even if Minghao isn't killed yet, he's subdued for sure and will be refined to death. He has a lot of souls. If one of them escapes, he can recover his power one more time. I'm just afraid that he had gathered all of his souls, so none of them can escape now. He frowned, his face heavy. Who are they? Adele looked at Hero and Montesi. She slightly paled as she was fearful instinctively. It was an invisible threat coming from the soul. Standing by Hero and Montesi, the low-realm warriors under the incipient god realm couldn't feel anything. But Adele, DeCarlos, and Frederick had entered the immortal realm, and their sensitivity was improved. They could vaguely feel an extremely terrifying aura form them. The energy fluctuated from the experts, made their souls restless, their soul altars shivering. They are friends from the sea domain of nihility, Shi Yin explained as he understood their astonishment. They're going with us to attack the 2-star areas. I have to borrow the external forces cause we're too weak. Hearing him, He, Frederick, and the others looked upset. In desolate territory, they were the unrivaled existences. Until now, He, Frederick, and their followers had made killing God Lord Brian and destroying the God Clan their life's goal. However, things changed drastically. The God Lord was betrayed by his own kind. The 4 heavenly kings were chasing after him. Brian, their archenemy, was now in their shoes. They understood his situation, anyway. The ones who weren't appreciated now showed their fangs and their brutal facets. They had controlled the situation entirely. The arrogant and proud experts like them couldn't accept this. It had stirred them up, making them thirsty for more power and higher realms. Let them rest in the Grace mainland. We're going to the ancient demon star area to find Pu Tai first. Shi Yin suggested. He was talking about 2 coffins of the White Bone clan. He thought they were the burden they shouldn't keep on their side all the time. Unfortunately, Hero and Gay insisted that they had to carry the two coffins all the time. They didn't believe that the people on the Grace mainland could take care of the coffins well. They believed in only themselves. "Let's go. We're heading to that ancient demon something," Mondesi screamed. Reaching an agreement with the Phantom clan and the Whitebone clan, Shi Yin led them together with Xian He, Frederick, De Carlos, and Adele from the Grace mainland, heading toward the ancient demon star area. After many star areas had merged together, the dark abyss overshadowed the ancient demon continent like a thick, black sea which generated an endless evilness. In a dark area where people couldn't even see their own fingers arose a tired voice. "You're astonishingly talented as you can cultivate the soul control power Upanishad and synchronize it skillfully with your space power Upanishad. Even in my clan, no one could reach your achievement in soul control power Upanishad. Too bad you've not reached the territory ancestor realm yet. I will ask you, on behalf of our ancestor, do you want to follow our ancestor? We will distort your seal, making you a loyal servant of our devouring clan." "I don't." Ming Hao's feeble voice arose in the darkness. It seemed his soul was about to scatter. "Useless persistence. It's really bad for your achievement and loyalty. I have to destroy you then. If you want to kill me utterly, you will have to pay a big price. I have no choice. Your threat is really significant. When you enter the territory ancestor realm, I won't have a chance to kill you. I have to do it early. Come as you wish." Chapter 1483, Predestined Enemy. Chapter 1483, Predestined Enemy, __. Layers of thick membranes that looked like glass or jade stopped them. Starlight sparkled and crawled on those membranes with thick and surging heaven and earth energy. It was the territory wall, the barrier and membrane that separated the star areas. When many smaller star areas had merged together to create the Grace mainland star area, those layers were created by the star area walls of the small star areas. Layers of dozens of star areas had overlapped to form a thick and tough wall. Gay from the Whitebone clan was at the first sky of territory ancestor realm. He cultivated fire power Upanishad, his eyes seeming like dazzling suns. "Let me open this star area wall," Gay volunteered. As soon as he finished, billions of flames emerged from his chest, creating waves of burning artilleries. Boom! Flames rolled, emitting a burning heat that shocked Blood Devil and the others. They felt a twinge in their ears, so they had to conjure light cages to protect themselves. De Carlos' visage changed. From those artilleries, he could feel the toughness that could destroy the heaven and earth. He believed that if the artilleries hit the small spaces inside his body, they could destroy hundreds of them. If this flaming attack bombarded the Thunder Firmament star area, it could shatter it entirely. "Who allowed you to do that?" Shi Yin bellowed. "The star area wall is too thick. If I don't do that, we can't break it." "Oh!" Gay suddenly screamed in fright. How could it be? At this moment, the artilleries in his chest were connected to the star area barrier by a flaming dragon. The dragon was several thousand meters long, as big as a mountain. It continually licked the barrier with the burning tongues. Waves of invisible energy came from the crystal, jade-like membranes. It seemed eternal, as if it was the will of God. Boom, boom, boom. The fire dragon exploded abruptly, sparks sent everywhere. The members of the Phantom clan and the Whitebone clan had to back off to avoid those terrifying sparks. Gay was frightened. It's unbelievable that the star barrier has a powerful counterattacking energy. Where can this energy possibly come from? Oh, when I moved through the barrier, I didn't encounter any attack. De Carlos was puzzled. He came to the barrier, using his space power Upanishad to open a passage. He did that at ease. Hero and Mondesi exchanged looks. They saw the heavy and serious countenances on each other's face. Mondesi observed the surroundings and said, "The barrier Desolate has put up can prevent the outsiders, or the warriors from the other territories. But the warriors with its aura in the soul won't be affected. Yeah, take you guys for example. You were born in Desolate territory, so you have its aura. You won't fade the counterattack from the barrier. But We don't belong to this place. It will instinctively treat us as the enemy. Hero remarked. No wonder why the devouring clan members aren't walking around the 3 big star areas. Seems it's because of the star area barrier. Shinhee got it. We should take DeCarlos passage, Shi Yin said. Right after that, they followed each other to move through the passage. Emperor Sea Shark and Shanrun walked at the end of the line. They seemed to want to say something. They met Shi Yin after Hiron and Montesi, but he didn't talk to Emperor Sea Shark. It made Emperor Sea Shark suspicious. He wanted to find a chance to ask Shi Yin about his intentions as he had invited him to Desolate territory. Shi Yin lagged behind purposely. He watched the members of the Whitebone clan and Phantom clan enter the ancient Demon Star area with DeCarlos' help. After only he, Emperor Sea Shark, and Shenrun were left, Shi Yin talked sincerely. If you hadn't helped me in Sea of Annihilation, I would have been killed. No matter why you did that, I owe you this favor. I told you to come to Desolate territory without any harmful intentions. You're struggling to live in the sea domain of nihility, so I think you should go to Desolate territory and try your luck here. I will try my best to give you a great encounter. What kind of encounter? Emperor Sea Shark asked skeptically. You will know when it arrives. Shi Yin smiled mysteriously. Emperor Sea Shark didn't ask further. He nodded and stepped into the ancient Demon Star area with Shanren. Inside a cluster of thick darkness arose the fierce sounds of soul collisions. It seemed countless ghosts and departed souls were fighting, tearing each other in there. Putai and his warriors surrounded the ancient demon continent, observing coldly and waiting for a result. All of a sudden, starlight beams zoomed over from a very far distance. The starlight carried the earth-shaking aura and piercing energy. It was a formidable raid of shooting asteroids. Thousands of mountain-like, shining asteroids were shooting toward the ancient demon continent. Putai changed his face and howled, his voice piercing through the blood sea. Hundreds of devouring clan members with dark green skin flew out of the darkness like the beasts. Most of them were at the incipient god realm, and several at the immortal realm. They all had emerald eyes, showing their savage and brutish nature. Receiving Putai's order, they began to urge their power. Crimson rivers, erosive mist and smoke, destructive energy waves, icy cold corpse chi. A myriad of great, evil powers were conjured. Many incipient extents arose, and the immense snow world blasted and attacked those asteroids. Putai wore a sinister face. Although his eyes were red, he couldn't hide his excitement. Shi Yin, you have come finally. Haha, I've asked Uncle Labit to keep Minghao alive to entice you. Although you're late, you're finally here. Many warriors who used to depend on Minghao, Shinhee, and Frederick were surrounding Putai today, making him their supreme leader. Inside the torrential asteroid flow, Shi Yin was standing on a massive rock, his eyes cold and crimson. He looked at Putai, checked him, and then talked. It's unexpected that you've reached the immortal realm, Second Sky. Not bad. I'm amazed. Seems you've swallowed a lot of energy lately. Putai also had Bloodthirsty's inheritance and Devour's acceptance. He had mastered the devouring power Upanishad and the 8 great, evil powers. No one could assess the growth of devouring power Upanishad better than Shi Yin. Seeing Putai enter the second sky of a mortal realm, he knew that the other had killed many people to gather energy. Since it was Wetterson's body, his god power ancient tree was typical. Even though Putai had a profound realm, he still needed to accumulate god power. And god power, generated by the devouring power Upanishad, had the essence chi of the dead warriors as the main source. Shi Yin, you and I have lived together for a long time. I know everything about you. But you know nothing about me. So, you can't beat me. You don't have even a single chance. Putai looked frantic, grinning happily. I'm going to kill you, then eat your soul and body. I will definitely advance further. Everything you got within your life of hundreds of years will help me achieve my goal. You're the biggest boost for me to become a territory ancestor. I have been waiting for you for a long time. He had considered Shi Yin a predestined enemy since he found out that Shi Yin had received Bloodthirsty's inheritance and the real ring spirit considered him as master. He had crossed his heart that he would take back everything. He had made so many plans. But Ming Hao got him at the critical moment. Ming Hao had sealed him, and he had almost vanished. He had made up his mind that he wanted Shi Yin and Ming Hao to wither in order to nurture his soul and accumulate energy to reach the territory ancestor realm. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The formidable, destructive energy came from Pu Tai's body as Bloodthirsty's aura rose and rocketed massively. The spiral energy expanded from him. As soon as it touched the asteroids, all of them exploded into dust. Pu Tai's eyes were garnet as he used Rampage. The negative moods multiplied crazily, wisps of white smoke fuming out of his pores. It's the battle between Shi Yin and me. Right from the start, he and I shouldn't exist at the same time. Pu Tai turned to his subordinates, talking indifferently. Only one of us can live. Once one is swallowed, he will complete the other. I am the young chief of the devouring clan, chosen by the ancestor. Shi Yan's chosen by Bloodthirsty. It's a predestined battle. This was the unfinished battle between absolute, beginning creature devourer and Bloodthirsty. Pu Tai had expressed that no other warrior could join this battle. He must finish the battle between Bloodthirsty and Devourer that year. It was one of the plans Devourer had prepared. It's true that they should finish the battle themselves. Master had made a rule that we only have one master, who has to be born from blood. Unfortunately, he didn't estimate that Devourer would interfere with his plans. But, under the given circumstances where Shi Yin and Pu Tai have the same realm, we can just let them do that, Xianhe said with an odd face when he heard the voice echoing around the sea of stars while hiding in an invisible asteroid. Frederick closed his eyes to sense for a while and then said, Pu Tai's formidable. Strictly talking, he has inherited everything of Master. Not only the devouring power Upanishad, but also the other 8 evil powers. At this moment, Pu Tai's competence is matched with our master from that year. He turned to look at Shi Yin. Shi Yin got the devouring power Upanishad and the death power Upanishad, but he hasn't cultivated the rest. Moreover, Wetterson's body, which Pu Tai has possessed, is created by our master's bones. He's more like our master, and our master was invincible at that time. Are you sure we shouldn't interfere with their battle? Hero, Montesi, and Gay heard the conversation between Xianhe and Frederick, then asked for more details. Hero and Montesi were surprised, but they looked more interested. Montesi said, they're both at the second sky of a mortal realm, and they represent Bloodthirsty and Devour. It's gonna be awesome. I'm eager to see the result. With the powers of devouring power Upanishad, if Pu Tai kills Shi Yin, he will get everything Shi Yin has. Xianhe pondered and then said, in the same manner, if Shi Yin kills Pu Tai and refines him, he will get everything Pu Tai has. Pausing for a while, Xianhe hissed, including the other power Upanishads. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.